Mic check, mic check, mic check. Part of your day, Jesus fucking Christ. How about that? How about that? Jesus fucking Christ. That's what we got going on today. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm almost afraid to step away. I'm gonna be gone tomorrow and Monday, and I don't know. Come Tuesday, I feel like we're gonna have to have a 12-hour show at this pace. If people can't slow it the fuck down over there in Washington, I feel like we're gonna really have to to extend our shows at least for the next week. It was a wild day yesterday. It's a wild day every day. I mean, that is the normal with the Trump administration. It was the normal before, and we're here to cover it. Good to see you guys out there. Markets are booming. Yeah. Let's check out the markets. How's the stock market look right now? Let's take a look. Because I did see Dave Portnoy on Celebrating saying that it was going well. He made $8 million, so I assume it's gone up again. Oh, okay, so we're still in a free fall. Great. Who the fuck is Wheeler Real Estate Investments? Who are they? Wheeler Real Estate Investments. They're having themselves a day, up 20%. What are they over 5 days? What does Wheeler Real Estate do? Somebody figure out what Wheeler Real Estate is doing. They're having a nice day over there. Good job, Wheeler Real Estate. You're one in a million. Today I was just watching. I'll probably have more clips come Tuesday, but one of the few times that we get to celebrate some bipartisanship. Today. You have a Facebook whistleblower. Her name is Sarah Wynne Williams, or I guess a Meta whistleblower. She's currently testifying, or maybe she's done now, before Josh Hawley's committee, and she's whistleblowing on the fact that Facebook has been selling children's data to advertisers and lying about it. Here's a little bit of her testimony from this morning.
One example is that Facebook was targeting 13 to 17-year-olds. It could identify when they were feeling worthless or helpless or like a failure. And they would take that information and share it with advertisers. One of the things about advertising is advertisers understand that when people don't feel good about themselves, it's often a good time to pitch a product. People are more likely to buy something. And so what the company was doing was letting these advertisers know that these 13 to 17-year-olds were feeling depressed and saying, now's a really good time to serve them an advertisement. Or if a 13-year-old girl would delete a selfie, that's a really good time to try and sell her a beauty product. Or if a 13-year-old girl is...
So let me interrupt right there.
Sure.
If she deleted a selfie, then Facebook was in essence, or Meta, Instagram, they were in essence tracking her activity online.
It'll never get old watching Republicans like Marsha Blackburn. So, if you delete a picture, Facebook knows about it? Yeah, of course they know about it, Marsha. I always after all that, I think what we just saw here, first of all of that stuff is horrific. I apologize for laughing at Marsha Blackburn. All of that is, as a parent, as anybody who gives a shit about kids, like that is disturbing. It's disturbing knowing that these companies are capitalizing off of our feelings. But secondly, I don't think Marsha Blackburn understood any of that. So She just hit us with this.
right there. If she deleted a selfie, then Facebook was in essence, or Meta, Instagram, they were in essence tracking her activity online.
Absolutely. That was taken as
Yeah, like kind of though. Like she's on their platform. They're not tracking. She's on their platform. That's so they know when anything's added or deleted. Marsha Blackburn has no clue. We got to get better people in Congress. And we got to get better senators. Marsha Blackburn's got to go. Like if you can't understand 90% of the stuff that is brought before you, you just got to go. I think I don't know. People talk about term limits a lot. Age. Sometimes people talk about age. I think there should be some sort of test that you have to pass every single year. You have to understand the issues that are coming before you. And so they should roll out a test every year. Be like, here's the issues that are coming before you. Here's some basic terminology that you need to know in order to continue being a senator. One of those things might be what a platform is, what a social media platform is. I think that'd be fairly important. This hearing, I think we're going to have a lot more on it on Tuesday when I get back. I think that Josh Hawley's actually doing a really good job in this hearing. One of the things that's a little frustrating, maybe I didn't add this to the show. Let me see if I bookmarked it. I don't think I bookmarked. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. Let's do this. Josh Hawley called out Zuckerberg honestly, I don't think I've ever seen anybody ever more correctly identify what and who Mark Zuckerberg is. And in the spirit of bipartisanship, we're gonna listen to Josh Hawley. Now, if somebody breaks in, he's gonna sprint out of here. But as long as nobody breaks in the next 3.5 minutes, Josh Hawley will be able to finish this. I thought this was fascinating.
Evidence that we have in black and white is a company and leadership that is willing to do anything, work with America's chief competitor, work with our chief adversary, sell out other American businesses, sell out American user data, lie to Congress, lie to the public, anything in order to amass more power and make a buck. Can I just ask you, you know Mark Zuckerberg very well. You spent a lot of time with him. He's recently tried a reinvention in which he is now a great advocate of free speech after being an advocate of censorship in China and in this country for years, after suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story, after working hand in glove with the Biden administration to suppress content on COVID, to suppress content on masks, to suppress content on election questions, on vaccines. All of that, now that's all wiped away. Now he's on Joe Rogan and says that he is Mr. Free Speech. He is Mr. MAGA. He's a whole new man, and his company they're a whole new company. Do you buy this latest reinvention of Mark Zuckerberg?
Senator, there are two things. If he's such a fan,
now remember, she worked for Meta, so this is somebody and Meta has gone to great lengths to try and make sure that she didn't testify. So she does have information. I like the color matching we got going on here too. A lot of blue up there between the RTPTalks, her jacket, my hoodie. There's a lot of blue up there. This looks nice. Blue's my favorite color, and this is very appealing to me. I might leave this on paused for a while. Somebody screenshot this. I can use it when I'm feeling anxious.
And of freedom of speech, why is he trying to silence me? And the other thing is that this is a man who wears many different costumes. When I was there, he, wanted the president of China to name his first child. He was learning Mandarin. That was, he was censoring to his heart's content. Now his new costume is MMA fighting or whatever, free speech. We don't know what the next costume's going to be, but it'll be something different. It's whatever gets him closest to power.
If he were here, is there anything you'd like to say to him?
Senator, I have a lot of questions for Mark Zuckerberg, but he has proven time and time again that you cannot believe his answers. He's lied to members of Congress, he's lied to his employees, and he's lied to Americans. And that's why I'm asking this committee to hold him accountable.
Well, we're going to do that. And I just have to say,
her pace could use a little work. It takes a little too long for her to get those sentences out.
Trust his latest reinvention at all. He sat where you have sat in front of this committee multiple times in my short time in the Senate. Every time it's a different answer. Every time it's a different facade. But every time, the one consistent through line is every time it's something misleading. Every time it's something other than the truth. Every time it's about Mark Zuckerberg, not the American people. It's about Mark Zuckerberg, not what's good for this country, not what's good for his users, not what is the truth. And I, for one, am very tired of it. So I have a message to Mark Zuckerberg as well, which is that it's time for you to tell the truth. You should come to this committee and take an oath and sit where Miss Wynne Williams is sitting now and answer this evidence. Stop trying to silence her. Stop trying to gag her. Stop trying to hide behind your lawyers and millions of dollars in legal fees you're trying to impose on her. Stop threatening other whistleblowers. Come to this committee, take the oath, sit there, let us question you, and give the American people the truth.
Look, this is at odds. This is at odds with this administration. I know a lot of you guys don't like Josh Hawley, saying it's rich from Josh Hawley, but this kind of stuff needs to be celebrated. The guy that they're talking about right now, the guy they're holding this hearing about right now, the guy that they've hated for years was on that stage sitting behind Donald Trump on Inauguration Day. These are the people that are in the cabinet. All these people that Republicans hate, and Josh Hawley's sticking to it, at least in some sense. All these people that you claim are hurting your children or hurting America, they all sat there on stage with Donald Trump. Where were you? Where were the people like you? Where were the people that were calling out Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos? Where were they? They weren't in the audience. They sure as shit weren't on stage. They were at home watching. It's crazy how Republicans take their most hated people. And then Trump just puts them in the cabinet, puts them on stage, and Republicans are like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, this is totally not weird. If any one of those people had been on stage with Joe Biden for his inauguration, that's all you would have talked about to me for 4 years. That's all, you would never let any of that go. There's a video that B sent earlier to me. I'm going to play it in a minute, but the way that you communicate with Republicans is so important. And if you communicate correctly to Republicans, they will ignore reality. You just have to communicate in a way that allows them to ignore things that normally would bother them. And Trump has absolutely mastered that. Steve Bannon has mastered that. Charlie Kirk has mastered that. Sully said, Jen is my daddy. Josh said, helping where I can, bro. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Sully. Benny said, Dollar Train, Jen Dub on Venmo, Jehovah's Witness on Cash App, Super Chats count too. Thank you, guys. That's a good reminder. We do have a gift goal every day. We're crowdfunded here, and we rely on the generosity of our viewers to keep the lights on here. So, as I said before, we have Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal, as well as Super Chats. Anything you write within reason, I will read. We did lose our Venmo once for comments, so just don't ask me to do things like pee on your face or something like that. Just don't ask me to do things to you, and then they won't confuse me with a sex worker and shut down my Venmo account. You can do it on Jen's Venmo though. If you're gonna do it, send it to Jen. Fuck her shit up for once. It's always me that has to suffer. It's never Jen. All right, this was wild. This is Shane Vaughn. I've showed you guys videos of him before. He's insane. This is a preacher, a pastor, a man of God, which is interesting because as a man of God and somebody who talks about God all the time, ironically, I see no evidence of God behind him. I see Toto Tonight Live. I see him and his, I'm gonna guess artificial wife, robot wife, but maybe real. I love Toto. He's Toto. You got Trump. That might be him. I don't know who that is. That's probably Trump behind him. Ironically, this Christian pastor who speaks almost exclusively about God, there's no evidence of Christianity near him, but he does have this nice Hawaiian shirt on. And listen to this. Just listen. This is what we do over on the far right.
These tariffs, they are not just policy. They are prophecy.
Oh.
You've got to get that deep in your mind tonight.
Get it in there.
Because
spit on it. Shove it in there. Get that deep in your mind. You got to get it. It's prophecy, guys. This is not policy. It is prophecy. It is God's work.
Now that globalism is dead, it is literally Trump against the world. He has turned the world.
Unironically, you know who this guy reminds me of? Not because of anything, like his speech pattern and like the confidence that he projects things with, like things that aren't true, just like his feelings, but he projects them as truth. This guy speaks and sounds like if you closed your eyes and I told you this was lumberjack, you'd be like, holy shit, that's lumberjack. Let me just go back. Close your eyes and tell me this isn't lumberjack.
Now that globalism is dead, it is literally Trump against the world. He has turned the world upside down, and now the nations are clamoring. Everything is unbalanced. And I know mainstream media thinks that's bad, but they couldn't be further from the truth. This is the bold judgments coming upon the world. Yahweh has raised up a man, the breaker himself,
Humble me, B,
to bring to pass those things that must happen in the end time. These tariffs.
It's weird. Yeah, somebody said, you notice the golden calf next to the mailbox? I didn't. We got some golden idols over here. I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you, Gibson. I'm with you, Gibson, girl. It's the same way. Like, this is just so culty. And then, like, the cults have adopted him. He's a better leader than Jesus for them. He's more tangible. And he allows them to be bigoted. They like him way more than they like Jesus. Jesus tells you to be kind. Jesus tells you to turn the other cheek. Jesus tells you that you shouldn't chase money. Jesus tells you that you should take in the poor and the needy, that you need to take care of them, that that's the most important thing. And so when they have the choice between Jesus and Trump, they're like, I love Jesus, but I also live in reality. It's ironic, like them abandoning Jesus and abandoning their religion. Say, there's my religious beliefs and then my political beliefs. Yeah, what you're admitting is that your religious beliefs like aren't reality. They're not even reality for you. It's just a way for you to hide behind something to protect your bigotry. If you say like you're against gay marriage, for example, and you're not allowed to talk about your beliefs, your argument's going to sound pretty fucking silly. I think that if your genitals are the same as their genitals, then you can't live together and split your money. And then if one of you dies, you get benefits. Why not? I don't know. I don't know. But if you get to hide behind, well, my beliefs are that God made man and woman, and he made them in order to reproduce and have children and populate the world. And two peni cannot make a baby, and therefore that is my belief. If you can't bring in your religious beliefs, you just sound like a nut. So what these bigots do is they have their bigotry, and then they just pick and choose spots in the Bible to hide behind. But that's like, this is Mr. Christianity here. This is prophecy. No sign of Jesus behind here. No sign of Jesus. A lot of signs of Trump. Liberal tears. Liberal tears. Shut the fuck up, Drakeo. Shut the Nobody's crying. Nobody out here is crying. You guys are morons. This is crazy. This is crazy to watch Republicans do this. Everything is falling apart that you're doing. The shit you guys are doing is falling apart. And it's like you're on fire, and we're like, hey, bro, you're on fire. And you're like, yeah, right, pussy. Quick, keep crying about it. Yeah. You're always crying about how I'm on fire. All right. Just thought we'd let you know you were on fire. But anything we say, any warning that we give, any amount of information that we put out there, it's just like this knee-jerk, pre-programmed, tears. Oh, you're salty that you lost. We're trying to help you, man. We're trying to help you. You're not like, just know who you are. You're not somebody that's pushing this agenda. You're not somebody that's a thought leader. I'm playing your thought leaders here. If you don't like what's being put on the screen, talk to your thought leaders. I'm just showing you videos of them. Here's Ed Markey, Senator Ed Markey. He is the Commerce, Science, and he's on the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. And he was questioning Donald Trump's NASA pick. Donald Trump's NASA pick is a guy named Jared Isaacman. I think Isaacman. his qualifications are he has worked in space travel. He has a private space exploration company, but he's also somebody who's like invested in financial like payment. I forget the company it was. It was some sort of like PayPal adjacent company, some payment processor. Anyways, he is good friends with Elon Musk, and obviously Elon Musk put him in front of Trump to make him the head of NASA. And here's Marky just trying to get him to answer a very simple question. And as much as you guys want to say we're crying about things, I would like to know, how come nobody that you bring before Congress is ever willing to answer a question? This is crazy. So what Marky did here is he said, I asked this guy, I asked Jarek Isaacman a question a bunch of times. But what I did in this video is every time he refused to answer the question, I zoom in. Here's the video.
Mr. Isaacman, you have deep personal and financial ties to Elon Musk. You have invested tens of millions of dollars in SpaceX. You have paid millions of dollars to SpaceX for 2 private space flights. Your payments company, Shift4, has an ongoing, quotes, global strategic partnership with Starlink worth millions each year. And according to a recent Wall Street Journal report, Musk personally asked you to lead NASA. Given SpaceX's significant interest before NASA, you can understand why the public would be concerned about conflicts of interest here. So let's try to set...
I like this. We already got the whataboutism. You guys haven't seen the fucking clip, and you're already doing whataboutism. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. By the way, just a reminder, Democrats don't answer questions. Hillary Clinton sat in front of the committee and answered questions for like 12 hours. Joe Biden sat down and met with investigators and answered questions for 8 hours. Our people do answer questions. You're full of shit. This is a deflection for you. Quick, name me a Democrat who refused to answer the question. Just name one. Name one of the nominees, one of Joe Biden's nominees who refused to answer the question. This is a very simple question he asks here.
A few things straight. I understand that you met with Elon Musk at Mar-a-Lago in late 2024. Is that correct?
No, Senator. I was in Mar-a-Lago to be interviewed by the President of the United States.
So you did not meet with Elon Musk at Mar-a-Lago?
I went to Mar-a-Lago to be interviewed by the President of the United States.
I didn't ask you that. Did you meet with Elon Musk at Mar-a-Lago?
I believe he was one of dozens of people that were around Mar-a-Lago at the time, Senator.
So did you meet with him?
I would not say we had a meeting. We probably had a conversation in passing, Senator.
Okay, during that same trip, then President-elect Trump offered you the NASA administrator job. Is that correct?
At the conclusion of the meeting, Senator, he did.
Thank you. Was Elon Musk in your meeting when Trump offered you the NASA position at Mar-a-Lago?
Senator, I was interviewed by the President of the United States.
Was Elon Musk in the meeting when he offered you the job?
Senator, my meeting was with the President of the United States.
So Elon Musk was not in the meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Senator, I was being interviewed and speaking with the President of the United States.
You can just say he was not in the meeting. Was he in the meeting or not in the meeting?
Senator, I'm trying to be as transparent as I can. I was being interviewed by the President of the United States.
That's not an answer. I love that Republicans figure out, like, he's answering this. Was Elon in the meeting? I was being interviewed. Yeah, we know that. We know in the interview. Was Elon also in the interview? I was being interviewed. Was he there? Was he in the room with you? I was being interviewed. It's not answering the question. And that's the problem with Republicans. Like, you don't care. You have you will just defend anything. This is crazy. I actually thought today, like, this would be a video where we could get some Republicans to be like, yeah, look, this doesn't mean that you have to vote for Democrats. I'm just saying, can we just agree he's not answering a question here? How the fuck can we not agree on this? If we can't agree that this guy isn't answering the question, how are we ever going to agree on anything? I just played you a clip of Josh Hawley. I've played 2 Republican clips. I've just given you the opportunity, like, look at this. Look, Republicans and Democrats agreeing. And we're here. We're here. This guy won't answer the question. And you guys are like, he's answering it. He's answering it fine. Giving an answer isn't answering the questions, right? He's avoiding it. Why? Because everybody knows that Elon Musk was in that fucking room. Everybody knows it. But he's been instructed not to give that away.
It's not a difficult question. Was Elon Musk in the room when the president offered you the job?
Senator, my meeting was with the President of the United States.
And by the way, again, even if you guys somebody's like, this is compared to what Garland did, fine. Show me a fucking video of Garland lying and I'll say Garland is lying and avoiding the question. Of course it exists. Why can't we agree on this? Why can't any of you Republicans right now say, yes, he's not answering the question? Why does it have to be, what about? This is the fucking problem that we have here. I'm doing my very best to reach out to you guys and say, here's an olive branch. Here's 3 straight minutes of Josh Hawley grilling Meta. I didn't even stop the clip when I disagreed with what Josh Hawley said at the beginning about censoring information. I let it run, and I'm, look, Josh Hawley and I agree on something, and I show you this clip, and you still can't do it. You still can't bring yourself to just say, yeah, sometimes people on our side do bad things. This is why we get into a situation that we're going to get into later. I think this illustrates the point of today's show really, really well. If you can't bring yourself to admit something that's happening right in front of you, then when your president runs a pump and dump scam, when your president manipulates markets, when somebody tries to overthrow the government, you'll never know. You'll just go along with anything. If you can't cross this bridge, you're in a cult. And this is a perfect line. If you can't say that this guy's refusing to answer the question, you are in a cult, and there's no way around that.
I'm assuming that you don't want to answer the question directly because Elon Musk was in the room. I think that's the only conclusion anyone listening to this could reach, unless you want to dispel us of that notion.
Senator, again, I was being interviewed by the President of the United States, and I'd also say I have no...
That's not... I appreciate that. I'm just trying to determine Elon Musk's role in this, and you're not willing to be fully transparent. Have you discussed your plans for NASA with Elon Musk?
I have not.
Whoa! Look how easy that was to answer that question. Have you discussed these plans with Elon? No. How easy was that? So we know he can answer questions. Why won't he answer the other question? That's the point. And I think somebody said it really well in the comments. Like, dude, this isn't about Biden. This isn't about Trump. And your response to me is just, again, I love that you guys come back every day. It's good to have you because I'm going to pound this into your heads every single day. These are pre-programmed responses. When you're uncomfortable, you are programmed to do a whataboutism. When something's uncomfortable and it's on your side, you just get you kind of flip a little bit. You kind of freak out a little bit, and it's a knee-jerk reaction. You almost can't control it. Joe Biden. Somebody was like, Pocahontas. Just engage. Live in reality. Live in the now. The real problem we have with not being able to hold our government officials accountable, and this is across the board, is that we are too afraid to admit when our government officials make a mistake. We're very good at pointing to the other side and saying, that's a mistake. We're really good at that. And you can say that about me too. When we can't agree on simple things like this, we're fucked. How could we ever agree on things if we can't agree on this? And you guys are like, well, you think that we're just going to give in to Trump at some point. How? If we can't cross this bridge, we can't trust you. And nobody should trust you. What kind of human being are you? Honest to God, what kind of human are you that you can look at this and say he's answering the question? Fine if you don't care that Elon Musk is in the room. I do. You probably don't. That's fine. If he answered, yeah, Elon Musk was in the room, what would change? Would Elon Musk go to jail? No. Would Donald Trump be criticized? Yes. Would Elon Musk be criticized? Yes. Do you care? No. Is it against the law? No. So why not just answer the question honestly? Why not demand transparency here? It's not that hard. And this is what today's show is going to be about. It's going to be all about the fact that you guys are staring a situation in the face that is hurting Americans and is capable of undoing 250 years of democracy in this country. And the only reason you're not willing to confront it is because it's your guy. If this was Joe Biden, you would all be on board with it. And you know what? I'd be with you. You can go back. I do this every single day. You can go back and you can watch the Joe Biden years. And you and I are going to disagree on a lot of things. There's going to be a lot of things you were pissed about that I wasn't pissed about. But there were plenty of things you were pissed about that I was also pissed about. And I talked about it. I'm just begging Republicans, can we please, like, we don't have to agree on what policies are good and what policies are bad. If you think that we shouldn't tax billionaires, fine. But can we just agree, like, can we find a baseline somewhere of reality? Because that's why we're struggling right now. Nobody can even find like commonplace anywhere. It's impossible to find commonplace. I honestly, when I showed up today, I was like, this will be a good clip to play at the beginning of the show to kind of get everybody on the same page. I think the Republicans that are here in the chat with us today, they'll see this and they'll be like, yeah, because they don't give a fuck about who's in charge of NASA. It's not going to hurt Donald Trump. So I thought you guys would be like, yeah. No, that guy, he's avoiding that. That's silly. He shouldn't do that. I was wrong. I had too much confidence in you. We also had a hearing about the FDA, DOJ specifically. This is Dr. Kessler. He was the former FDA chair. I don't remember his first name, but he was a FDA chair in like the 90s, early 2000s. He's also worked, I think, on both Biden transition teams. Here was him testifying before Oversight Committee yesterday in Congress.
Imagine, ranking member, that you were this, there was a major airline, and that major airline decided today that it was going to fire everyone.
Jason, I don't agree with you, but I would you are welcome to come up here and talk to me about it. But I just asked you like why we can't get along, and you said because the left starts everything. Like what? That's so sorry. I know I've got ADHD today. I got to stop responding to the chat for a minute. But that's the fucking problem, dude. Like that's the response my 5-year-old gives me when her and her friend get in a fight and she does something wrong. Flips her friend's plate over on a plate of food over and it lands on the floor and you're like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Well, she touched me with her toe." All right. No, dude, we can't. Why can't we just agree? You won't agree on the clip. Just let's agree on the clip. You want me to agree that a party started something? Bro, we've been around for 250 years. There is no way that you and I are ever going to figure out who started it. We can't even come to a consensus on that because we could never figure it out. It's an unanswerable question. Nobody can say, like, who started it? But it's pretty childish for an adult human being to say, you started it. Let's be better than that. Let's just be better.
Imagine, ranking member, that you were this, there was a major airline, and that major airline decided today that it was going to fire everyone except the co-pilots.
You can
It was
engage.
going to run that airline.
Anybody that wants to talk to me for the comments for the rest of the day, I got to ignore you guys for a little while. If you want to talk, add GenDub1 on Discord. You can come up here and you can talk to me. I'm not gonna argue through the comments. If you don't have the courage to come up and talk, I just have to ignore you because I got a show to go that I've prepared, and we got to get through this show. It's my last one of the week, so I'm going to continue with the show, but I want all the Republicans to know I will never run from a single debate. I will sit here all goddamn day and debate you guys, but you've got to get the courage to come up here and have a discussion.
And it only had the co-pilots. No pilots. The senior people are gone. People who fixed the planes were gone. People who got people on the plane were gone. That's what's going on at FDA today. I have major concerns. We are at risk. I think we are less safe today. I always believed that things were fixable. Right? I mean, that was when, I think we've seen that, right? You can always go in and fix. The problem is, especially in the sciences, I've been the dean of 2 major medical schools. This is about expertise. This is about pipeline. We're going to lose a generation of scientists. They're going to set back this country, and that's true at FDA. We've lost 1,000-person years of expertise in a few weeks. I don't think, if we let this go on for much longer, I think it's a matter of weeks. I don't think, this may not be fixable. This may affect us for decades.
I can empathize with the Republicans who say, I don't like how things have gone at the FDA. I don't like how things have gone at NIH, at the CDC, at HHS. I can empathize with that. I understand that that you don't feel like your positions have been heard, or you might feel like there's not enough transparency in the FDA. I agree with that. I think we should all be critical of the FDA. I think these are issues that, like, most of us agree with. I think what the problem that we have here, and the hard part we have in agreeing, and the barrier between us agreeing on what we should do, is that this administration's approach is to just break everything. And if you break everything and you put the right people in place, maybe you can fix it. But if you don't have the right person in place, then it is fucked. And that's what we're saying here with Dr. Kessler. I even, like, RFK is a perfect example. RFK, in my opinion, and probably not your opinion, is not qualified to run HHS. That's fine. He got confirmed. He's there. My opinion is that he's not qualified. Your opinion that he is. Doesn't matter. He's in there now. What is he doing now that he's a member of HHS? He's quietly fighting against Donald Trump. He's quietly going in there, sitting down with experts and finding out in real time that he was wrong about some things. That's why yesterday he had to backtrack on vaccines. And he said this vaccine is safe. You should get vaccinated. I just don't want the government to force you to, but you should. Where before his argument was, I don't think the government should force you to take a vaccine that is unsafe and is hurting our children. And him working at HHS around experts in science, has allowed him in a way, like, you'll see the people that are mad at RFK. There's going to be some of these anti-vaxxers, like hardcore anti-vaxxers. I played a lot of them yesterday. They're like, fuck you, RFK, you're a traitor. There's also people who were like, I like RFK, and if he's worried about this vaccine, then maybe I should be worried about this vaccine. And so they're like, let's see what he does. And then yesterday, those people who didn't say, I'm anti-vax and I like RFK because he's anti-vax, they looked at him and said, I kind of like that he's got a different perspective here, and I'd like a different perspective to be put into HHS. Those people recognize different perspective has been put in as the head of HHS, and the head of HHS, after sitting down with experts, changed his tune. And that should give that voter more confidence in RFK. And frankly, it gave me more confidence in RFK because I saw a person change their position. That should be the most celebrated thing in politics, is somebody who sits with an expert and changes their position. But we've become so divided that the worst thing that you can do politically is change your opinion. And that's where we're at. That's why you guys don't want to change your opinion. That's why some of us don't want to change our opinion, because it's not socially acceptable to change your opinion. We're all in all the time. I've been a part of that as a registered Republican. I've been a part of that for years, for most of my life. And then one day I started questioning all my beliefs, and here we are. And I fully expect, just if we're being honest, if I'm still doing this in 10 years, I fully expect many of my positions to be different in 10 years than they are today. And I fully expect the people that are my age, that are watching the show now, I fully expect a portion of them, whether it be significant or not, a portion of them to not evolve their position and disagree with me. And they'll be like, oh, and I fully expect to be challenged, like, you've changed. And I hope that until the day I die, people are criticizing me for changing. That would be that would be a life well lived. If at the end of my life, if I do this the rest of my life, people go, you know what, I liked him in 2025, but I sure didn't like him in 2035. Good. That means I changed. I used to like him because he held this position, and then he changed his mind on this position. Good. That's what we're looking for. If you're not willing to accept that every position you believe in could be wrong, then you set yourself up to be wrong and not know it. And that's the change that America really needs to make. The change in culture that needs to happen in America is stop thinking you're right, and that can never change. You can be right in the moment and wrong 3 years from then. You can accept the best available data at the time, and 10 years from now, that data has been proven wrong, and you should adapt. It's the reason we don't think the earth is flat anymore. Because we learned and people adapted. But at the time, when people were like, I don't know about this flat earth thing, kind of seems like a globe. People actually killed scientists who said that. Scientists were run out. Churches attacked scientists when they had the audacity to say, the earth isn't the center of the universe. It's actually the sun. Or the solar system, I guess, not universe. Yeah, it's the sun. The sun's the center of our solar system. And all these people who are like, oh, biblically speaking, the earth is at the center. Don't be the person that is still citing bad science 30 years later. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to be the person that evolves. Just like most Republicans now don't say that they oppose gay marriage. But I'm old enough to remember, I think it was 2008-ish, my church spending $10 million to fight it, and every single person I knew, every fucking person that I knew, I swear to God, every one of them opposed gay marriage, and 95% of them support it now. But in that moment, they believed they would never change. Be those people. We change. We evolve. If you think that conservatism is going to work forever, you're absolutely crazy. You can't. Nothing in this world has worked that is conservative. Everything has an expiration date. Ideas have expiration dates. Science has expiration dates. We learn new things. We evolve. We learned like gravity is not even what we used to think it is anymore, right? It was like a couple years ago. We found out that gravity was, I don't even remember. I'm not a scientist, but something about like gravity was like waves instead of some force. I don't know. Like, but I just remember, I don't remember what gravity is in the first place. But I just know, like, not that many years ago, we learned gravity was different than we all thought it was. If that would have been political, goddamn. Can you imagine if two candidates, like one's like, gravity is this, and the other person's like, gravity is that? We would just have a whole country divided. We're so easily divided along political lines. We ignore science all the time for ideology. And it's getting to a point where what Dr. Kessler is saying is absolutely correct. Like, ideologically, we're firing people just because they were appointed by Joe Biden or because they worked in the Biden administration. We're firing people just because of their proximity to somebody who we don't like politically, and we're ascribing these motives to them that they don't have. We're saying, oh, they're partisan because they worked for somebody politically. No. The politicians are the partisans. We're undoing decades of research. We're falling behind China in every single way. Later on in the day, Dr. Kessler went on Rachel Maddow, and I thought made an even, actually, I think this was before, I thought the point was even more coherent. And you can see that this is a career civil servant.
We are less safe today.
This is somebody who, God damn.
We are less.
How do I make this thing full screen? There we go. This is somebody who's not been involved in politics. This is just a person that's a scientist that wanted to work to make things better. And here we are now, like his friends who also want to do the same thing are being fired because of their proximity to Joe Biden.
Safe today because of these cuts that have happened the last several days. I always thought that things were fixable, right? You could fix things. I am very concerned that if these cuts are not rescinded, these will have effect for decades.
You think that the way they have done these cuts, the people they've cut, the number of jobs they've cut, potentially have created a crisis in which we can't ever have these institutions back at strength?
I think we're very close to that. I wonder whether the president really even knows, the extent of what has been done. Remember that night that he was taken by helicopter to Walter Reed? Mm-hmm. He was having difficulty breathing. He had COVID. He was very sick, right? He was given 2 monoclonal antibodies, right? He referenced those as miracles. They were cures. All of a sudden, he got better. I mean, He could have died, but for those drugs. Dr. Peter Stein's office approved, made available those drugs to the president and to thousands of others. Peter Stein was fired, was let go. I don't think the president knows that. Someone needs to walk into the Oval Office and say, Mr. President, we just fired the person who may have saved your life.
Why? Because Biden kept him on. That's it. It's the whole reason we got rid of that guy. He saves Trump's life, and then he gets fired because he also worked for Joe Biden. That's it. That's the whole thing. And meanwhile, we have a bunch of you going, oh, that Rachel Maddow? If you can't watch Rachel Maddow, she's not even talking. It's another person talking. If you automatically discount something because of the show that it's on, that's a you problem. That's a small brain problem. And you should shut the fuck up about politics. You should stay out of it. If you can't, if you are so triggered by the thought of Rachel Maddow, just be quiet. Let the adults talk. And if you are an adult and you'd like to talk, just a reminder, we will welcome any of you to come up and talk. All you have to do is add Jen on Discord, JenDub1 on Discord, and she'll bring you up. Speaking of Jen, she's right here. She has some announcements. After I say that Johnny Longtrail said centrifugal governor balls out. Thank you. Hey, Jen.
Johnny and his balls. How's your morning?
Good. I didn't take my ADHD meds, and so this chat is really fucking with me today. It's a little harder today. Thank you.
You might want to just turn it off and just not look at it or hide it or something.
Well, I'm trying. I'm just kind of like doing this.
Yeah, you're definitely shiny object to me today.
Thank you. It's important. It's important for people to see me at my worst. It's important to see what unmedicated me looks like.
True. I remember when you were talking earlier about people calling you out and making fun of you. I'll make fun of you for all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be about just politics.
That's true.
You can count on me for that. Anyways, so like Jay's mentioned before, if you want to come up and talk, how you do that is you message me on Discord. It's the same as the Venmo, so it's Jen, JENN, Dub, number 1. If you send me a message over there, I can bring you on to talk to Jay in real time. You can look in the top left-hand corner. We've got a gift goal. We are crowdfunded. This is our job. Sorry we're not out sweating and building. Actually, I'm not allowed to build stuff. I should be in the kitchen, right? So sorry, Jay's not out building something with his hands and breaking his knees. Anyways, so we're crowdfunded. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Super Chats all go towards knocking out the rest of the gift goal. We do the show each day till 1:00 Pacific Standard Time, so you can you got a little bit of time to help us out there. If you haven't already subscribed to us yet, on Twitch you can use your Amazon Prime sub. Just hit the subscribe button over on YouTube, and we've also got 4 different memberships. You want to check out our link tree. We're on all kinds of different social media platforms, and we've got some merch. So if you guys help us out with that, how do bees have sex?
I don't know.
From behind.
Stupid. That was stupid. Thank you, Jen. Alex said poop on my face. Thanks, Alec. See if we can go ahead and get rid of this Cash App. I didn't want it anyways. Rory said this support is because of Jen. I hear you there. Thank you. So I think a lot of people support Jen and not me. That's fine by me. All right, moving on. Here's Nevada governor definitely not freaking the fuck out. If you have to make large assumptions about people with no evidence, there's a good chance that the message is getting through to you. Shout out to any of our friends in Nevada who went and protested. Every single state in the country had protests. Some of them very, very large protests. And the governor of Nevada, he's just decided it couldn't possibly be us. They must be paid.
Stupid protests that occur in the state capitol and is paid by the Democratic Party. That momentum And those crowd sizes isn't because they're pissed, because they want to make a difference. It's because they're getting paid.
Yeah.
Okay?
Raise your hand if you were protesting on Saturday, and then give a thumbs up if you were paid.
So don't lose sight of that. Example being New York. So New York, they were on social media professing 10,000.
Real quick, I want to point out, he's like, they were all paid. Let me give you an example of everybody being paid.
10,000 people. 10,000 people. People are pissed. We're making a difference. You know how people live in New York? You know how many people are registered Democrats in New York? And 10,000 people, that means nothing. AOC and Bernie Sanders going out on the oligarch circuit. You know, they get a couple thousand people, oh, people are pissed. No, don't lose sight of that. We still are strong as a group. Yes. We are still making a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not protesting because they're mad, guys. They're just told to be mad. Nobody's upset about their Medicare, their Social Security, their Medicaid being cut. Nobody cares that funding for education is being cut. Nobody cares that they're trying to strip women's right to vote away. Nobody cares about any of that, guys. This is all they're just all tricking you. W unmedicated J Jamar. I'm unmedicated most days, to be honest, but at the end of the week it's a little more difficult. Robert said helping Jen stay out of the kitchen. Thanks, brother Bob. Appreciate it. So anyway, that's how the Republicans are coping with it. They're just like, these guys can't possibly be upset. They just paid. Ignore them. Turn away. As Trump said yesterday, just fucking close your eyes, guys. Just close your fucking eyes. Don't look at it. If it bothers you, don't look at it. Close your eyes. Here's Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands. As Republicans today voted on a massive spending bill, these fucking liars. If you're a Republican and you care about fiscal conservatism, you care about fiscal responsibility, and you're not outraged today, you don't get an opinion for a while. If you care about our debt, if you care about fiscal responsibility, and you're not upset with your Republicans who voted for this, everybody except for Thomas Massey and somebody else. I can't remember who it is. If you're not upset with all the Republicans except for them, then you don't really care about fiscal responsibility. Here she is laying out just how much they're willing to give government handouts to rich people.
GLA is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am standing here appalled and terribly disappointed at the actions.
He did sound like Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Of the Republican majority. The brazen cruelty and flagrant deceit with which Republicans in Congress and the Trump-Musk administration are trying to shove down this fallacy on the throats of everyday American people. Nearly 1 in 3 Americans count on Medicaid. Yet Republicans are pushing at least an $880 billion cut in Medicaid. For what purpose? This purpose.
So Matthew Copeland, I think it's interesting that your last name is Copeland. Are you telling me that there are no cuts to Medicaid? You're telling me that they're in this bill? Have you not read it? There are required cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. I just want to make sure, Cope, that you're not saying that this bill that you definitely read doesn't have cuts to Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid, right? Just want to make sure.
Purpose. Because as I sit on Ways and Means, I know that they must add $7 trillion with a T in giveaways to billionaire donors and big corporations while ripping health care and food away from veterans, seniors, and children. Americans are, yes, fed up with the chaos, but they are also fed up with the cruelty, the lack of humanity, and the willingness to help everyday Americans that are being exhibited by this. You are exposed.
Expired. Generally.
Just want to make sure we're clear on that, because look, if I'm lying and I didn't read the bill, fine. If you're right and I'm wrong, you ought to tell Mike Johnson, because here's Mike Johnson talking about the cuts to Medicaid.
about cutting one benefit in Medicaid to anyone who's duly owed. What we've talked about is returning work requirements. So, for example, you don't have able-bodied young men on a program that's designed for single mothers and the elderly and disabled. They're draining resources from people who are actually do that. So if you clean that up and shore it up, you save a lot of money and you return the dignity of work to young men who need to be out working.
The dignity of work. We must return the dignity of work. Yeah, what he's saying here is that we're not going to cut Medicaid. We're just going to force people to prove that they can't work. How do you do that? How do you prove that somebody can't work? If somebody has chronic pain, for example, and they how are you going to prove that they actually can work? How do you prove that? The doctors have already said they can't work. They've already gone through evaluations. This thing that Democrats or Republicans do all the time, where they say, like, what we're really doing is we're just cleaning it up. What they're actually doing, and they do this every single time, is when they want to cut something, they tell you they're going to reform it. And then they put in qualifications that are impossible to meet. And that means that people will fall off because they can't prove something. If you have chronic pain, you cannot prove that you can't work. Your proof is the doctor, the expert, but they're like, oh, no. We'll put in specific provisions. They may say, oh, well, if you can walk, you can work, right? Something like that. Even with that being said, there are cuts that they have to meet. So if they can't find enough cuts with a work requirement, they have to figure out other places to cut from in Medicaid, in Medicare, in Social Security. The bill calls for generic guaranteed cuts. And this is the hell of it, because here's what's actually going to happen. They're all pussies, and so are all of you. And so they're going to put in the bill that in order to pay for these tax cuts for the billionaire class, they're going to make cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And they're not going to make any cuts. So what they're going to do is cut taxes for billionaires and not pay for it. That's why, because they do it every time. That's why when Republicans cut taxes, deficit spending goes up, because they never accompany it with actual tax cuts. That's exactly why Thomas Massie didn't vote for this bill. He said, I've looked at it, I've sat with them, I've asked every single one of them, is there any scenario, even if you get 100% of the cuts that you're looking for, is there any scenario where you don't increase spending? And they said no. At best, we're talking about $1.9 trillion in deficit spending. They are not cutting spending. They are increasing spending while they're going to bring in less revenue. I don't know why you let these people lie to you. Why do you do it? How many more times does this group of people have to tell you, we're worried about the debt, and then they go in and they cut taxes for rich people and they increase the deficit? How many more times are you going to fall for the same fucking trick? All they have to do is make you hate us. That's the whole gambit here. As long as you guys hate Democrats, they can do whatever the fuck they want and lie right to your faces. Right to your face. They are lying. Mike Johnson, Mr. Christian, they are lying to you. They will not make cuts because they can't. Because if they cut Medicare and Social Security, they will lose elections. It's too popular. Nobody wants it cut. None of them are allowed to cut Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. So they just do this little workaround. They might make some small cuts, and they're going to be like, oh, well, yeah, we got a work requirement. So look, we made a tiny little cut. We cut a handful of people off of Medicaid. There we go. We did it. And you're going to watch the deficit increase. It does it every fucking time without fail. Every Republican since Ronald Reagan has increased deficit spending from their predecessor. And every Democrat since Ronald Reagan has decreased deficit spending after their predecessor, except for, I think, maybe Bill Clinton. I don't think Bill Clinton lowered deficit spending. And that's the one that you guys love. You're like, look at he cut all this waste, fraud, and abuse, and he did a tax cut with Newt Gingrich, and it increased deficit spending. How many more times do you have to fall for this? What more evidence do you need? You look at let's look at deficit spending by year. You tell me when the Republicans cut deficit spending here. Oh, this isn't the chart. Let's see. When did they cut it? Ah, look at this. Deficit spending going down. Oh, yeah, down. Oh, that was Obama. Oh, shit, that was Obama. All right, here's Trump. Boom, 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 boom. Then here's Biden. Oh, we lowered it. Look at that. Look at deficit spending under Biden from where he took over to where he ended. Not the Republicans, though. Here's George Bush. Hit a little bit there. We lowered a little bit there. Just a little bit after he lost control of Congress. This is your guy right here. This massive increase, that's your guy. And he's going to do it again. Because Donald Trump's not a fiscal conservative. Donald Trump likes that he has access to the pocket or to the checkbook. So he's like, yeah, people in Congress, just let them know that we're going to cut spending, but we're really not. He just, on top of this budget already it was massive, and then he just added $300 billion more dollars so that he could give handouts to people like Elon Musk, so he could get defense contracts. Because for some reason we're about to go to war. Nobody can figure out why the fuck we're about to go to war, but for some reason Donald Trump's about to drag us into a war. That's cool. Thank you, Megan, for the super chat. Appreciate that. Here's the video I want to talk about. MAGA, you're going to fucking hate this. If I were you, I'd take off for this, to be honest.
As the
you
Trump
could listen to
administration
it or you could not. But I thought this was really interesting. This is what B sent this earlier this morning. At first, I'm going to be honest. At first, this takes it takes a minute to get into this. So I understand, like, stay with this. It could have been this video could have been a little quicker, but stick with it. And I think that what she says here is really accurate, just based on my experience in that every single person in my life is MAGA.
Continues to wrongfully deport innocent people to an El Salvadorian concentration camp disguised as a prison. A lot of people on the left have been trying to make Trump supporters feel any amount of empathy for these innocent people who have been denied due process, desperately trying to help conservatives see the humanity in the people that Trump is hurting. Those attempts, unsurprisingly, are not going well. And the most common explanation that you are likely to hear from other people on the left is that, well, conservatives just aren't capable of feeling empathy for people who don't look or think like them, or for situations they've never experienced themselves. And there's a lot of evidence to back that assertion up. Just look at literally any tweet Meghan McCain has ever sent, or the scores of homophobic people who only realize queer folks aren't demons once their own kid comes out of the closet. But I still think the assertion is wrong. I think conservatives are capable of experiencing empathy. They just aren't capable of experiencing it outside of the context of their own morality. And I think it's really, really important that the rest of us learn what that means and how to use that knowledge to our advantage as fast as humanly possible if we want to save our democracy and limit the harm that the Trump administration and Elon Musk are gleefully causing to our most marginalized brothers and sisters. So let's talk about it. First of all, we need to define the difference between empathy and morality, because a lot of people use those terms almost interchangeably. Empathy, aka the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, plays a big role in morality, which is a system of values and principles rooted in the distinction of right versus wrong. Empathy can often motivate individuals to act morally by making them aware of the suffering or needs of others and inspiring them to help alleviate other people's pain or distress.
All the MAGA
but when
checked
we're living
out.
In a world where
MAGA checked out when they heard empathy. We're talking about feelings. We don't talk about our feelings. We just express them in anger.
Conservative evangelicals have begun throwing around phrases like, don't commit the sin of empathy. It's clear that a not insignificant amount of Americans have begun viewing empathy as diametrically opposed to morality. And I think I can explain why and how we can use that to our advantage. To explore this, I want to use an extreme but real life example. Back in 2018, 5 teenagers as young as 14 made national news after they taunted and recorded 31-year-old Jamel Dunn, who was actively drowning and calling out to them for help.
I want to be clear, I think maybe she could have prefaced this. She's not claiming that these 5 teenagers are MAGA. She's just showing an example of people who are conditioned to not feel empathy for somebody and not showing empathy for somebody. So just to be clear, she's not claiming that these 5 teens are MAGA. She's not claiming anything about the political affiliation of the 5 teens or Jamel Dunn, who is the person who drowned here.
Not only did they not intervene or attempt to rescue Jamel in any way, they didn't even bother calling 911 or otherwise alerting anyone else who could help him, choosing instead to record and taunt Jamel as he died in front of them. Clearly, the teens had no empathy for Jamel, and I think we can all agree that their actions were immoral and disgusting. But I think they, at least at the time, would have argued otherwise, at least in regard to the morality or lack thereof in their actions. You see, as they watched him drown, one of the taunts that they kept repeating was calling him a junkie. They saw him as undeserving of their empathy because he was, in their mind, just a junkie. And because they had, much like every other American, grown up being fed a steady diet of junkies are bad, addiction is a moral failing, talking points, they collectively came to the conclusion that allowing him to drown was, in fact, the moral decision to make. One fewer junkie in the world was a net positive in their mind, and therefore their inaction was an act of morality. Which brings me to my next point, what constitutes morality on the left versus right. To discuss this, we're going to use psychologist Jonathan Haidt's moral foundation theory, or MFT, which proposes that—
I don't think, and by the way, before she lays this out, like, let's be honest with ourselves. Let's be really honest. I want you, for those that are on the left, I want you to think, like, does this explain you? And on the right, does this explain you? Because there clearly is a difference in what we value in things that we think are moral or right. That's clear. That should not be, that's not really up for debate. That's why we're in different parties. That's why we have different political views. So let's not be offended by this. Just think, like, when she describes your position, does that describe you?
Morality is actually a system built on 6 foundational building blocks: care versus harm, fairness versus cheating, loyalty versus betrayal, authority versus subversion, sanctity versus degradation, and liberty versus oppression. Under MFT, morality is something that we each build for ourselves by choosing where we fall on the spectrum of each of those 6 foundational blocks. Think of it sort of like a video game where you're given a certain number of points to spend choosing your character's attributes or skills. Would you rather be better at sneaking or at using melee weapons? Would you rather be better at solving puzzles or punching enemies' lights out? Do you prioritize charisma or endurance? According to Haidt's work, as well as the subsequent work and studies of lots of psychologists—
She's citing a study evolved. It does change how I set up my characters in games. I will say that 100%. I used to play the game Tropico all the time. It was like my favorite game. I'll still play it every once in a while. But every time I played Tropico, I would set everything up and I would just do everything for my goal every single time was to make the most amount of money and to have my city or my island wind up being like this money-making machine. Like nuclear weapons, sure. Casinos on every corner, sure. I would do everything to just like keep increasing the money. But as my political opinions changed and I got older and I had a kid, I started thinking about, like, does more money make me happy? Is that actually, like, what if the society was, do I want to be rich or do I want to be happy? I would choose happy. And then you've got to figure, like, there's some amount of wealth that you have to be happy, but does it need to be obscene? And would I set up a community if I was designing it where everybody is chasing money, or would I set up the community where everybody is chasing happiness? And as my political opinions evolved, I started changing the way that I built my island. I started changing the decisions that I made. Suddenly, I wasn't just like doing military. In fact, I was finding ways like, I'm going to be Switzerland. Let's see what it's like to have an island where I'm neutral. And it was like, it was a little bit stress-free. Like, there almost wasn't enough. At first, there wasn't enough contention. I was like, damn, why is nobody attacking? This sucks. And then after a while, I got into other aspects of the game. It's a game, but that's why this story was important, because if you take people and you put them and you say, go play this game, and you know their political affiliation, but they don't understand necessarily what you're doing, you're just saying, do what's instinctually you. And then they set up the study, and so they have all these people do what's instinctually them. And when they go and they create their characters, you notice that people on the right build a different character than the people on the left. That's what this study is showing here. The study is just showing that we're different and that we value different things. And I think sometimes, at least for, I've seen a few from our lefties in the comments here, like, it's not our responsibility to fix them. No, it's not. So maybe somebody has a different path, a different journey, and maybe they're going to be slower to get to a certain place. I'm right. I have all the answers. Everything they do is evil. I think that there's some people here that, look, I'm friends with you guys, but I think there are a handful of people that show up here regularly, and we've talked about it. You don't want to change. You don't want to accept. You don't want to allow people who had different beliefs than you, who maybe you really hated their beliefs. You don't want to allow them to change. You don't want to give them a space for a soft landing, and that's fine. But what this shows is that people are predetermined to make some of these choices, and understanding that goes a long way to fix the problem.
And political scholars, liberals and progressives tend to rely more on the care versus harm and fairness versus cheating foundations when developing our senses of morality, while conservatives tend to rely more on loyalty versus betrayal, authority versus subversion, and sanctity versus degradation. Both sides of the political divide equally value liberty versus oppression, although how that presents for each side looks very different. Once you start applying those foundations, and the weight that each side of the political divide places on each of them to actual policy debates, it quickly becomes very clear how and why the left and right keep talking past one another. Democrats say that attempts to defund Medicaid show that conservatives don't care about low-income Americans, while Republicans say that the income taxes that fund Medicaid are a violation of their liberty. Democrats say that protesting in front of Tesla dealerships is a valid response to a government that is treating people unfairly, while Republicans see those protests as a lack of loyalty to the current administration and an eschewing of their authority. Democrats see denying immigrants due process and deporting innocent people to El Salvador as causing immense harm and perpetuating an incredibly unfair system, while Republicans see immigrants as an affront to our country's sanctity, and any attempts by the judicial system to mitigate further harm as an attack on Trump's authority and a show of disloyalty to our country. And meanwhile, both sides of the political divide continue to believe, at our very core, that it is our side that is acting morally and their side that is being monsters. None of what I'm saying, by the way, is meant to justify literally any of the actions of the Trump administration or make excuses for the people gleefully cheering those actions on. There are absolutely people in Trump's base who are irredeemably cruel and who embrace Trump's most immoral policies specifically because they are immoral and will inflict maximum harm on the marginalized communities that they hate most. But saving our democracy is going to require we get a lot better at reaching out to and connecting to those on the right who are still savable. And importantly, finding ways to do that without compromising our values. Because right now, there are way too many establishment Democrats who seem to think that reaching these folks requires
P for personality needs to be muted for a while. You got to get timed out, bud. Don't threaten to dox people, you fucking idiot.
That we compromise on our values rather than just simply getting better at talking about those values in a way that makes sense to folks with morality systems built on different foundational blocks. We don't need to throw trans folks under the bus. We just need to find ways to defend them that appeal to at least one of the foundational values that make up conservatives' morality. We don't need to look the other way as Trump systematically targets undocumented and documented immigrants. We just need to find ways to defend them that appeal to at least one of those foundational values that make up conservatives' morality. And if you want to see an example of this strategy working in real life and actually connecting with folks, look no further than Tim Walz. Walz famously and repeatedly appealed to conservative morality in defense of women, black and brown folks, and the LGBTQ community when he used the line, "Mind your own damn business." He wasn't asking conservatives to empathize with a woman in need of an abortion or a gay man who just wants to marry their partner, because they don't need to empathize with us in order to side with us, as long as they view it as siding with their own sense of morality, including the importance they put on personal liberty. Because here's the thing. We don't all have to take the same path, as long as we're all headed toward the same goal and final destination. And if we want to actually win this thing and save our democracy, a lot more of us are going to have to learn how to guide conservatives down their path to our goal and final destination, rather than trying to force them to take our path, or even worse, forfeiting what we know should be the final destination to instead join conservatives at theirs because doing otherwise feels too damn hard. As the Trump administration.
Yeah, I loved that. Thanks, B, for sending that. It's true. Like, I mean, you can even look at the debate I had on Tuesday night with Pops. Like, he was going okay, but once Rollo stepped in, and Rollo, who had a little more authority than me because he's an actual immigration attorney, and once that guy was able to be led down the, like, just his thought process, like, let's walk you through your thought process. Once he knew, like, my defense mechanisms aren't going to work here because I'm talking to somebody who understands this better than I. At the end of that, he agreed. At the end of that, he's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you now. Now I understand why deporting people who without due process is a problem. Even if I'm against this type of immigration, deporting people without due process is a problem. And it's because Rollo took a different approach, but he also had a level of expertise. And I think that's the point there, is that if we really want to talk to each other and not talk past each other, we do have to understand that we're coming from two very different places, and that this can often be a journey that takes a while to get through. I think that a lot of the people that you can't get to right now, eventually something happens. Like, eventually something might hurt them, and that's maybe when you have the opportunity to have a discussion about this. Right now, what we have is we have a lot of people who were very happy about Trump winning. And they fully believed and still believe that Trump is what's right for this country. And they're not really ready to abandon him for a week's worth of bad decisions yet. And I understand that, actually. I think that that's fair. I think that even though I look at it completely different than them and I can't believe that they don't see the corruption, sure. Like, they're still holding out hope that there's not. And that those people slowly will come around, or Trump will somehow have this brilliant plan, and a week from now we'll all be like, oh man, we didn't know that was his plan. This was working all along. FOD said this position's brilliant. I agree with that. Johnny said it changed again. Gravity is secondary force now. Okay. That's what it is. I can't remember what it was. Anyways, I just thought that was a great video. Thanks, B, for sharing that. Now back to this is the person I hate the most. I apologize. I want every Republican in the chat right now to know this isn't about you. I just fucking hate this guy, and it's not because he's a Republican. It's because he comes from the same place as me. This is Andy Biggs. He's a Mormon, which I was. He went to school at college in my town. He lives in my city, not far from me, a few blocks away, and he is my representative. So I do want you to know that my hatred towards Andy Biggs is not intended at you. I fucking hate this guy. And you should hate this guy too. One, because as a Republican, he never gets anything done for you. But two, as a Republican, he regularly lies to his constituents, and he doesn't do anything. He literally doesn't do anything for your party either. This is just a guy that's getting paid to go do photo ops, and he's not even good at photo ops. Like, most of you have probably never heard of him. That's how shitty he is. He's been in Congress for a long time, and most of you have probably never heard of him. He is dog shit. And I want you to, so today he's on the floor talking about the SAVE Act. There are real problems with the SAVE Act. This is a voter suppression bill. There's no question about it. Whether you think it's voter suppression or not, I don't know how you can argue it. It will make it more difficult for some people to vote. That's just the truth. It's going to add steps for people to vote, and Andy Biggs now is going to lie about voting in Arizona. And he does this all the fucking time. I don't know if he doesn't know. I don't know if he just thinks nobody will see it, so nobody's going to fact check him. He's about to lie to you about how voting in Arizona works.
Let me tell you something. In Arizona, we have two kinds of ballots. We're the only state we're really unique this way. And it's a result of a federal case. You have state ballots which require you prove citizenship to vote on, but not so on federal ballots. That means
that is a lie. That is a lie. What happened is Arizona tried to add additional requirements to prove, specifically voter ID in person. They tried a whole bunch of things, but Arizona put in additional requirements to vote. If you register to vote in a federal election, you have to prove your citizenship. And sometimes that means that if you have a document that you had to prove your citizenship to obtain, that document is valid, such is the case with a driver's license. What he's saying and what he's lying about is that everybody in Arizona is required to prove their citizenship before they can vote in federal and state elections. But the state elections, because states have rights to run their own elections, but not their own federal elections, there are additional requirements for state elections. That's what he's saying. But he's lying to you when he says you do not have to prove your citizenship. And he's lying to you because he is looking at the demographics of his state. And what we know from the demographics of this state is it is moving blue. Even though Trump won the state in the election, I don't know if all you Republicans know this. On the same ballot that Trump won Arizona, Republicans lost down ballot. Trump won Arizona and a Democrat won the Senate. Trump won Arizona and a Democrat won the governorship. He recognizes the demographic change in his state. He recognizes that when people move to places like Phoenix and Tucson and Scottsdale, and as these rural areas like Prescott and Sedona and Yuma, as people move there for cheaper housing, it becomes more diverse. And more diversity changes the way that people vote. If you are around diverse people, you're most likely not going to vote Republican. If you have an ethnically and morally and religious diversity, if you're in an area where you don't all think the same way, that area is most likely going to be blue. And so he's looking at this as people leave other states and look for, we have California that's very expensive, Arizona's expensive, Colorado's expensive, Utah's expensive. People for a while have been leaving these more expensive places, coming to Arizona, and that makes them more diverse, which means more Democrat voters. In fact, if you are a Republican voter, let's say you live in rural Alabama, and then you move to San Francisco, the likelihood of you or your family members changing your party affiliation is very high. People don't move to more diverse places and get more conservative very often. It's rare. So Andy Biggs sees that. Republicans see that. And so now what they're doing is they're trying to make it harder for certain people who don't vote for them to vote. Now, that would mean people who have a bad paper trail. I have a friend here in our neighborhood. She was adopted from, I believe, Vietnam. Her parents adopted her from Vietnam. She has a terrible relationship with her parents, and so they won't give her like her birth certificate. So she's married. She has a new name, but she doesn't have extra documentation. Under the SAVE Act, this person who came to America by no fault of her own, who was adopted by two American parents, has a bad relationship with those parents, and she's asked for that documentation. She can't even go out and get like a passport. Now her name is changed, so she has a new last name. She doesn't have a birth certificate. She's not going to be able to prove who she is because her name, her given name, and the name she's married under are different names. And so if she goes to register to vote under the SAVE Act, she will not be able to vote unless she could go acquire that additional information. So whatever you want to say, if you think that's good or bad, it's obviously bad. I don't know who the fuck thinks it's good, but it's 100% voter suppression. 100%. There is no reason to make a woman who has gotten married and changed her name, there's no reason to require that she get a birth certificate changed, the name on her birth certificate to match her new name. This is voter suppression because women don't vote red. Women vote blue overwhelmingly. And so they're going after any demographic that votes blue, and they're saying, let's make it harder for those people to vote. 100% voter suppression. And again, I feel like this is one of those areas that we should be able to agree on. I don't know why we can't agree on this. We shouldn't suppress the votes of women. We shouldn't require additional documentation from women who their biggest sin was getting married, especially from the family that wants to like restore the traditional family. Balls is the only way to get Jay to laugh. That's not way off. That's not way off there. All right.
Members of Congress, U.S. Senate, and for the President of the United States, you do not have to show citizenship. You don't have to show identification.
Yes, you do.
The SAVE Act is required if we're going to have election integrity. I encourage my colleagues to vote for that. It'll make the federal law in Arizona correspond to the state law. That will help Arizona's election integrity. Let me tell you something.
It won't help their integrity at all. We have very safe elections in Arizona. We are the most audited state when it comes to elections in the country. And despite five audits, no other state had 5 audits. We had 5 audits, and they found no fraud. None. We have the safest and most secure elections perhaps in the country. We pass audits all the fucking time because we're such a divided state that every time Republicans lose an election, they demand an audit, and every single time the audit doesn't show fraud. We are a great state. We don't have this problem. They just don't want women to vote because women don't vote for douchebags like Andy Biggs. This is just one last thing on I think this is, who is it? Susie Rizzio. Oh, the video's not loading. Never mind. I won't pull that up. We'll get on to the meat of it. I want to show one more clip. This is Chamath Palihapitiya. I think I said that right. He is one of the people that is a known member of the PayPal mafia. This is one of Elon's good friends. This is fucking shocking. This is absolutely fucking shocking. This clip has been going around, and I've seen Republicans sharing it like it's a flex. This is not a flex. This is Chamath, however you say his last name. I have to read it out. Palihapitiya. I don't know. He's on with Andrew Schultz and I forget what the Flagrant podcast. And watch him say something to these guys and have no pushback. Him complaining about the Republicans or the Democrats in this way just shows how corrupt Republicans really, really are.
This is one thing I'll tell you about the Trump administration, which is totally different. Okay, I was a lifelong Democrat. Okay, I was a mega donor to the Democrats. Like dinner with Obama level donor. Okay, I couldn't get a fucking phone call returned from the White House to save my life. The only thing that happened to me was I made an off-color comment about like something in China, and I had the Biden administration basically say something, like essentially put out a press release, basically saying I was mean.
I gave all this money to the Democrats, and they wouldn't do what I asked. What's the point in me giving them all this money if they won't take my phone call? You know who else won't take your phone call? Or who else can't get their call returned? Fucking all of us. They would never even think to call us back. At the very least, he at least bought a place where he could go to these functions and sit with them. He's literally saying, these Democrats wouldn't even let me bribe them. By the way, I forget his name. He's a comic. He's all right. His wife has been blowing his shit up. She is so mad at him. She's very liberal. And this is a miserable man right now because the rest of these dudes are relatively conservative, and his wife's just been blowing him up on Snapchat, on TikTok and X. Anyway, here we have him saying the Democrats won't even let me bribe them, but let me tell you about the Republicans.
That's all I got for millions of dollars. That, you know what I mean?
For being honest.
I mean, I was like, hey man, there's a lot of problems in America. Talk to me about the fentanyl crisis before we talk about everything else. Anyways, the Trump administration is totally different. There's not a single person there.
By the way, what he said, he's like, I said some off the cuff comment about China. I can't even remember what it was, but the Biden administration got mad. And that guy just said, you were just telling the truth. What he said is he doesn't give a fuck about the Uyghurs. That's what he said. He said he doesn't care if they're being genocided. I just don't care. That's what he said. He said, I don't give a fuck about genocide. And then he's like, I don't know what it was. It was just some silly thing. And then the dudes here are like, yeah, dude, you were just telling the truth. I guess, yeah, you were telling the truth. You don't give a shit about genocide.
Can't get on the phone and talk to. I'll give you an example of this. A friend of mine's company was really impacted with these tariffs in a bad way, okay? This is a really amazing, legitimate American business, 150-year-old business, family-owned, all this stuff. And I was able to call the deputy chief of staff, and I said, hey, can you talk to the CEO and just hear on the ground? He's instantly putting me on the phone.
Instantly. Now my money's really going to work. Now, all these millions of dollars that I've given them, they're doing me favors. Look how great this party is. Look how great these Republicans are. All you got to do is give them some money, and they'll take your call immediately. But can any of you get a call back from the White House, Republicans that are here? You think you're getting a call back? Fuck no. But he can, because he's got money.
My wife runs a pharmaceutical business. And, we wanted to make sure that the administration understood like all the implications for rare diseases and orphan drugs. What happens if these tariffs like cripple the R&D budgets? Because there's 30 million Americans with rare diseases. Rare diseases means it's not like diabetes or cancer. Yeah. It's like 200,000 people or less. But there's 30 million of these Americans. 2/3 are kids. And the only companies that work on such small markets are these small biotech companies. And the tariffs create a lot of uncertainty. We were able to talk to all of them. They were like, explain the issue. I want to understand it. So this is what's also totally different, which I really give them a lot of respect.
She's Italian. I think her company is headquartered in Italy. So all of his millions of dollars allowed his wife, by the way, Big Pharma. So his millions of dollars are able to influence the Trump administration very easily on Big Pharma. Okay. Look how amazing these guys are. They're so easily bought. This is great. This is why I've been spending all this money. I've been trying to get this level of influence forever, spending millions, and the Democrats wouldn't give it to me. And all I had to do is one time give it to Donald Trump, and now I can get anybody on the phone anytime I want. God damn, this is great.
Willing to debate it with you. You can pick up the phone and talk to these people. I've never had that experience, guys. I mean, look, I was like a senior person at Facebook, could never get a meeting. I only met Obama once when he came to the thing. Then when I was running an investment fund, successful, I had dinner with Obama, but it was, under the purposes of should I donate to the foundation? I've donated millions of dollars to Democrats. I've never been to the Oval. Okay?
I've also never been to the Oval. Never even got invited. Me neither. Do any of you guys been to the Oval? You guys get invited? This is fucking crazy. I can't believe they didn't delete this shit. I can't believe they put this out. This is one of Trump's biggest donors sitting here saying, all you have to do is give him money and you get what you want. And they're selling it like this administration is unfucking believable.
But the minute it's like here, it's like, hey, come to the White House, explain these issues now. You get on a plane, you get over there, and they're like, explain it. And then they'll debate it. That's like, it's totally different.
Sorry, devil's advocate. Should being a mega donor...
This is my favorite part. He's like, all right, listen, if I don't say something, my wife's going to beat the fuck out of me when I get home. So I've got to have a conversation with you. We're going to call it devil's advocate, but really, I just heard you brag for 2 minutes and 56 seconds about how you're doing pay to play. So let me ask you a follow-up question that none of these fucking losers next to me are going to ask.
I mean, I guess I get your point of view, but couldn't it also just be like, no, we're not going to be biased just because a person donated money. We're not going to just answer the phone whenever he called.
You think I was like, stupid 5 years ago and all of a sudden tried to like start to build national champions like now?
Yeah.
National champions? The fuck is he talking about? No, nobody said you were stupid then. They said you can't buy influence. Yeah, well, it wasn't my money. I was smart. The arrogance of these people, it's not my money that I gave Trump that made him call me back. It's because I'm so smart. And the way that they know I'm so smart is because I gave them money.
Dude, man, I've been in the grind for fucking 25 years here, paying my taxes. I fucking paid, more than most people.
Yeah, so irrespective of the donation.
I've been trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to favor myself. It's like, even just to explain, like, here's what's happening on the ground. Do you want to?
Yeah, my ground. Here's what's happening on the ground at my company, at my house with my wife. It's crazy. Like, he was so upset by that. Like, what? The audacity you have to claim that I'm buying influence after I just bragged about buying influence.
No.
Take cheap shots at comedians. Shut the fuck up. If comedians are going to get into politics, by the way, then they're going to be criticized. That's a comedian's job. Their job is to look at other places and make jokes. They make jokes about politicians all the time. And you guys aren't like, yeah, well, how many years have you served in Congress? Stop listening to comedians about politics. They're fucking dumb. They don't know what they're looking at. 1 out of 4 was like, wait a minute. You're saying that this administration is better than the last because you can buy them off? Is that what you're saying? And you guys are like, I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. I have to insult the host here. This is very uncomfortable that my guy is taking bribes. I better insult the host. You sound like ABC. All right. Fine. That's a news organization. That makes sense. It would make sense for a new news organization to look at a comedian who's refusing to push back about anything and be like, yeah, that's dumb. Yeah, if you're going to dip your toes into the news, if you're going to come over here to politics, then yeah, we're going to call you dumb. And they're all trying to do it, by the way. And the only reason these comedians are talking about politics is because of you. Because you guys have shown them time and time again that you don't give a fuck about expertise. You just want somebody who says what you think, and then you'll buy it. That's why Joe Rogan, every single episode, can say like 50 things that are wrong. All right, Jen, announcement time. Go ahead. By the way, I just want to point out.
Sorry, I was just taking a second to come on mute because we've got our upset people. Someone's like, you guys are real tolerant, which I don't know who started that about the tolerant left.
It doesn't apply to Jen. It does not apply to Jen. Yeah.
I'm mean as shit. So, I mean, that's just not me, but whatever. So, welcome to the show. I'm glad we've got our usual upsetty spaghettis in the chat. I'm glad to have you here. This is our is there an echo? Is there?
I laughed. I was laughing at upsetty spaghetti. You had an echo at first. I think it's done now. I don't hear an echo, at least. I don't know.
No, I don't hear it. Anyways, let's do this. Idea.
Still echoing? Is it everywhere? All right.
Anyways, is this better?
I don't know. I never hear the echo. Ask the chat. I don't know.
Me either. Anyway, I'm going to go on. So we've got our gift goal. If you look in the top left-hand corner, you can see we've got a remaining balance.
All right, it's worse, Jen. Let me just do the announcements.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, you see at the top left corner, we have our goal. That's what's left on the goal. Below or above the picture, depending on where you're watching, are the Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal. We rely on your donations to keep this going. I will say this: we could take ads. Like we have opportunity to do ads every single day, but it's not for products that we like, and we want to make sure that. If we ever do take outside money, we don't want to have anybody influencing us to promote something that we don't want to promote. And so as long as we can, we'll try and be crowdfunded. We have memberships, and then we do have our daily gift goal. That's to pay all of our bills, keep Jen from quitting. And so if anybody can help out with that goal, that's great. If not, we still love you, still be here, show up every single day. I understand if there are people who don't want to put money out right now. We have very uncertain times. And after I said all of that, I'm going to scare you into not giving us money. I'm going to scare you even more. So kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, but we're gonna cover the news as it is anyways. So thank you guys for the support, and I'll read anything that you send within reason. Let me I forgot to check. I think I got them all there. Okay, got them. All right, let's jump into the tariffs. Here's Representative Nagise. Talking to Rep. Jody Arrington. You guys might remember Rep. Is it Jody? It's Arrington, right? Yeah, Jody Arrington. And I'm gonna keep showing this. Like sometimes when I put together a show, it feels repetitive to me, and I hate that. Like I always want to learn something new, but showing MAGA people, not MAGA people, Trump administration folks refusing to answer questions and avoiding real conversations, avoiding reality. I think that if you're shown that enough, it starts to bother you. I know for sure when Joe Biden would make a big mistake, one of the examples that, I mean, we're still talking about it when he looked at his watch. I understand. Some people say he didn't look at his watch. I don't know why they say that. I think he clearly looked at his watch, but we can have a difference of opinion there. We heard about that for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they put it in our face for weeks and weeks and weeks. And while that bothers us, and while it's annoying, we're like, yeah, we already covered that a week ago. For people who aren't engaged in politics, seeing that over and over, it does remind them of a message. And I think the message that people who aren't just like inside of MAGA, I think the thing that they need to be reminded of over and over and over as we approach the midterms and then the next election is they need to see over and over that the people that on the Republican side are not going to tell you the truth, and they're going to be caught with their pants down over and over and over and over. Here we go.
X about a year ago. This is in August of 2024. It's a tweet that says, nobody knows how to get an economy running.
This is only coming out of my left headphone, so if you don't hear anything, switch to another headphone or put it on speakerphone.
Like President Trump. You still believe that?
There's an echo here too? Wait, do you guys you have an echo on this video? Let me mess with this. I'll hop out of the Discord VC. It might be the Discord VC. Give me 1 second. I don't even know how to get out of it. Let's see. I'll mute that. Let's see. Tell me if it's gone now.
I believe the president. You posted this on X about a year ago. This is in August of 2024. It's a tweet that says, nobody knows how to get an economy.
Still there? Let's try a different video. We may have just, let me go back to the last video. Let's see if it does it. Was it doing it on the last video?
I'll tell you about the Trump administration, which is totally different. Okay, I was a lifelong Democrat, okay? I was a mega donor to the
All right, we're good? Echo and just left speaker. Still there, still echo. That's interesting. Let me look at the sound settings here. Do I have any other mics that are on? Mute that. Yeah, I'm out of the VC. I don't know what's going on. All right, well, we're going to play it. Let me know if it's bad. It's just my voice. Voice is fine, but it's the video. How does that happen? Let me look at it, see if anything changed. Let me try this. Let's try this. Let me know if it's there. I just made a little change.
You posted this on X about a year ago. This is in August of 2024. It's a tweet that says, nobody knows how to get an economy running like President Trump. You still believe that?
I believe that President Trump's economic agenda.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And if past his prologue, we're going to have a red-hot economy like we did the first.
Let's talk a bit about the president. So what do you describe an economy running well as? How would you describe that?
I would say...
would a recession count?
I would say growing the GDP by almost an entire 1% in 2 years after deregulation, tax cuts, work incentives, good energy policy.
2 years. Because
in 2 years prior to COVID.
It's interesting that you've used 2 years as the marker because, of course,
this is actually pretty interesting. Republicans do this all the time now. The first Trump administration is really, really difficult to analyze because of COVID. But when you look at the first 2 years, you have to understand that the first year of the Trump administration was largely the previous administration's policies, because your policies, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, that didn't go into place until 2018. Most of the stuff Trump did in year one went into place in year two. So that economic growth you see in year one, unless you could point to specific examples of specific executive actions that were taken, it's really hard to say that growth was Trump. Now, there were some executive actions that were taken. Most of those had negative effects because they were similar to the effects now. If you remember, when Trump first took office, his first term, we had a little crash. There was a little mini crash of the markets because people were unsure of kind of the same stuff he's saying now about tariffs. He was threatening a trade war. And so the stock market reacted to the threat of a trade war, and then he was talked out of it. And so you saw the markets adjust. Now, this time he wasn't talked out of it. But really, we're talking about a year and a half of Trump policies. And the reason they want to talk about the first 2 years and not the middle 2 years before COVID is because in that third year, the middle 2 years that they never want to address, virtually every economist in our country was saying a recession is coming. Because we had done nothing to correct, like we were moving towards a recession when Trump took office. Let's make no doubt about that. The previous administration was slow walking us into a recession too. And frankly, every president, every administration, every Congress that we've had for 30 years is consistently slow walking us into recession because they refuse to balance a budget. They just consistently have massive deficit spending. Even without a balanced budget, even with just like reasonable deficit spending, we wouldn't have to have this cyclical like recession, recover, recession, recover, recession, recover. But because we don't tax appropriately and because we don't do anything about wealth inequality, we constantly have to have these resets in our economy to like fix the wealth gap. Because and nobody looks at it that way, but that's effectively kind of what happens. And then the wealth gap just grows more because we don't do anything to fix the initial problem. So there's a crash, a recovery. The wealthy are like, all right, we'll kind of hang back for a second. We'll take our licks, but we're going to get all our money back, and then we're going to cause another recession. That's why we have this cyclical thing. So the reason nobody ever talks about the middle 2 years, which are actually Trump's 2 years of policy, are because in the second year, his tax cuts and his trade policy were leading us to a recession, which by the way was shockingly accurately predicted by Mitt Romney. So he's talking about the first 2 years. Really, only one of these years they're talking about, Trump can be really said that you can really say Trump was accountable for.
As you know, every economist in the country is now predicting that we will have a recession if we are not experiencing one already. I don't know that most Americans, I'm not an economist, but I think most Americans, whether they're in West Texas or in Colorado, they wouldn't describe a recession as an economy running well. I mean, does that make sense? You don't disagree with that, right?
I think the American people who voted overwhelmingly and every swing state in support of this president said, I don't want any more of the unbridled spending and failed economic policies of the Democrat Party, with all respect, and President Biden. And
Republicans, while you're here, do you agree with what he just said? Do you agree that one of the reasons, or a main reason that you and your friends voted for Donald Trump is because you didn't like the unbridled spending and deficits of the Democrats? Can you just let's just talk and not fight for a second? Can you raise your hand if you're a Republican and you agree with that statement, that part of the reason that you voted for Republicans is because you were tired of this status quo of like spending and fiscal irresponsibility? Did any of you vote for that? Somebody said, Joe said no. I don't know what you voted for, Joe, then. That's crazy. Can we get Republicans here? Yes. Okay. Thank you, some guy. Appreciate that. Come on, guys. Engage. Let's not just fight all day. Let's have, hand raise, guess. Okay. Great.
inflation that came with it, and the increased debt that came with it, and the depressed economy that came with it.
It sounds like you're defending a recession. I don't get it. Honestly, let's just level with each other. Let's just level with each other.
I'd love to.
Okay, now that you've said that, I don't know that he's defending a recession. I want to ask this. If that's what you voted for, how come none of you are outraged today by the massive spending bill that was just introduced that will raise our deficit spending to $1.9 trillion? If that's what you voted for and you didn't just vote for Trump, can you explain why you're okay with that? Can you explain why none of you and none of the people, most people in your party, nobody seems to be holding him to that? If that's actually what you voted for, why don't you demand that they do what you voted for? And what's the reason? Like, give me a reason why you would just do a massive spending bill. Is this going to, how is the massive spending bill going to help? How's it going to help that thing? That's what you say you voted for. How does it help?
Okay? If a Democratic president were in office.
They broke everything so bad that it's going to hurt to fix it. Okay, let's follow that. Let's follow that line of logic then, Stoffel. Now you've got to explain to yourself, if it was broken so bad, it's going to hurt to fix it. If what you're saying was broken is that we spent too much money and increased deficit spending, then how is spending more money and increasing deficit spending going to fix that? I don't like when people spit in my face. What's your solution? I'm going to have everybody spit in my face until I no longer mind people spitting in my face. That's what you're saying right now. This is why we have a problem in this country, is we say that we're for some things, and then when the exact opposite happens, we just support it anyways. I wanted to see what you guys thought about that. And some of you were smart enough to say no there because you knew what was coming. But a lot of you said yes. And now we're in a position where the solution to spending too much money is spend more money. How the fuck does that work?
Yeah. And we're taking actions that were causing a recession. You're going to tell me with a straight face you describe that as the economy running well? Let's be serious with each other. You know that.
First of all, there's not a recession. There is the political courage to reset an unfair trade dynamic with the United States, which I hope you would support.
Okay, so
right? I mean,
there's not a recession. It's courage. This is just courage. It's not a recession. I know that economically it's a recession, but I don't want to call it that. I want to call it courage, because if I say recession, maybe some of these people who voted for us are going to start to figure out, well, we don't know what we're doing here.
Stock market collapsing, bond market in turmoil, recession on the horizon. None of that, to you, constitutes an economy that isn't running well. That's a fascinating. That's a fascinating position to take. You know what's interesting? Okay, how about this? How would you describe a 1,000-point drop in the stock market? How would you describe it?
I would say the stock market rises and falls. It's more sensitive to changes.
Rises and falls. Okay,
it's more sensitive to. Can I just complete my thought?
You answered it. You said rises and falls.
Changes in policies and a tremendous shift. I think you would agree with the policies of the last administration.
Okay.
And where this president wants to take our country.
Is it a big deal or not? I mean, filibuster.
Which one?
A 1,000-point drop in the stock market. How would you describe that?
I think it's going to be a much bigger deal when the stock market over the long run improves along with this economy and along with the worker wages.
That's not what you were saying last year. That's not what you were.
Tell me what I said last year.
So last year, here's a statement, a press release from the House Budget Committee. Chairman Arrington on the drop in financial markets and the fiscal decline of the Biden-Harris administration's economy. When the stock market dropped 1,000 points several years ago, you rushed to bemoan President Biden's actions and the economy that he was presiding over. You condemned it. Now the stock market drops 1,000 points every day for the last week.
Yeah, somebody said his quote is that if the stock market drops 1,000 points, the president should be impeached. And this is like, for the love of God, guys, like, can we not come together on this? For real, like can we not come together on what's balls and strikes? Does this remind you, without like taking sides here? I'm a 49ers fan. One of my best friends in the world is a Seattle Seahawks fan. And for a long time, as we were younger, before we had kids, we couldn't watch football games together. And we couldn't watch football games together because both of us were so motherfucking irrational. They would be like, that's holding. And they're like, yeah, well, what about, why don't you ever care when it's holding the other way? That is how we do politics. And it's for the same, I just want to be clear, it's actually for the same reason. It's because we have a lack of control. We don't have real input. We don't have real say. We don't have real influence. And so what we've come to accept as Americans is that we have a side, and that sometimes our side is good and sometimes our side is bad, but the other side is always worse. And so we just can't be consistent. And we don't demand consistency. If we really wanted a voice, if we really wanted to have it, yeah, grow up. That's fair. Actually, where is it, Bumpy? That's fair. I did grow up. I'll tell you the story. Actually, I'm not married anymore, but I used to be furious. Ironically, when I was a Republican, actually, I would get mad at the craziest stuff. I used to play a lot of competitive golf, and I took it very seriously. I worked really, really hard, and I had a temper. And my now ex-wife, one time, she was I was at a golf tournament. I was playing in San Diego at what is that place called? Shit, now I can't even remember what it's called. Anyways, doesn't matter. Playing a golf tournament. I'm coming up. I'm finishing the last hole, and I fucked up the last hole. I threw a wedge at my bag. I threw it kind of a long ways. It was a nicer course. I threw the wedge. I think I yelled "fuck" really loud, and then I went and I putted out. And I came back down, or I came back to my bag, and this guy came up, and he was like, he worked there, and he was like, "Hey, dude, you can't be throwing clubs around here. You can't throw clubs around here." And I was mad, and I stormed off. And my wife, she just told me, she's like, "I don't like watching you golf. It's embarrassing. It's a game. Like, you're supposed to be out here having fun. It's embarrassing. I don't want to be out here. I don't want to be seen with you after you throw a temper tantrum about a fucking game. You're not a professional golfer. You're a grown man throwing a temper tantrum on a golf course." Changed me forever. That conversation changed me forever. And what I learned after that is just like, what I was really upset about is that things happened, and I thought, like, I expected perfection out of myself. I didn't get it, and I blamed everything but myself. I blamed the club. I blamed the ground. I blamed the slow green, whatever it might be. I blamed the weather, the hotel, the bed, whatever it might be. I'd always look for some way to blame anything but myself. And that conversation changed me. It also changed me politically. It also that was a time of great change in my life. It changed. I started questioning my religion. I started questioning my political thoughts, and I realized that almost all of the anger that I had was just stuff that I couldn't really control, and I was upset that I couldn't control it. And that's a thing that I think as men specifically, like, we're predisposed to. I can tell you, as a conservative man, as a Christian conservative, there's a lot of pressure to be like head of household, make everything work. You don't always have your own identity. So if you're good at something, if it's sports or art or fishing or hunting, or now than I was then, I play less, but my emotions don't get in the way. And you got in politics, you have to do it too. I cover politics every single day. This shit sucks. These people suck. Everybody's trying to trick you into something, and it sucks. But if you recognize that, one, you don't have control over anything but your own thoughts and your own emotions, and two, if you recognize that tomorrow's going to be another day. The world is not ending today. Tomorrow is another day. You can get through those things. But we are stuck with a bunch of the reason that these folks can say in 1 year, if you get 1,000-point drop, if you're a president in the stock market drops 1,000 points, and then 2 years later, you no longer hold to that logic, it's because it's out of your control. And it's because you're afraid to admit that you're wrong. You're afraid to adapt. You're afraid to evolve. So if that was a true principle, he would say it now. And what we should do is every time one of these guys gets caught in a lie like this, there should be a mental note in every single person's head: never believe them without evidence ever again. Not never believe them, but never believe them without evidence again. And the problem is we don't ever hold any of these people accountable. And the reason we don't hold them accountable is because they're on our side. We don't hold people accountable on our own side. So I'm begging Republicans to do it. And I would say that you should hold me accountable too. I don't want to relitigate the past. I don't want you to ask me oh, did you hold Obama accountable? No, I was a Republican then. Did you hold Biden accountable? Yeah, sometimes. But in the moment, we should be able to call balls and strikes. Everybody in here knows that guy set a standard for Biden that he's not willing to hold for Trump, and we should all just be able to agree about that. We should just all be able to agree. See, we're doing it. Talk about pot calling the kettle black. Yeah, see, you're still doing it. I'm asking you just to acknowledge here. If we ever want to be on the same page, we have to acknowledge that that guy doesn't set the same standard. You won't attack him, you're going to attack me, the messenger. You're mad at me, the messenger, for showing you somebody lying to you. And that's the real problem, is that we don't do anything about the people that lie to us.
And you claim it's the economy running well. Do you understand why that would be a tough argument?
Yeah, but I can explain it to you. Yeah, I can explain it to you. Because you had consistently bad fiscal and economic policies that resulted in persistently bad economic environment for the American people, mainly 40-year high inflation. So this is year after.
Sorry, yeah, some people, if you're having problems with the stream, a lot of people are saying just close out of the app and come back, and it seems to be fixing it. Sorry I don't know what to do about that. I'm not getting any warnings on my side, so. Oh, it did disconnect 3 minutes ago. Okay, that's why. Yeah, you may need to reset it so it catches up.
Year, quarter after quarter, and we're talking about the first 2 or 3 months of Trump's administration, where we're transitioning from that failed agenda.
I get it.
To one that's going to put us in a place of a stronger position.
So you want to give him some time. I get it. So 1,000-point drop in the stock market, bond markets collapsing, recession on the horizon. At what point, let's say there's a depression.
No.
At that point, would I be able to get your commitment that you'd say, I don't agree with the president's policies? How far are you willing to go? It's an honest question, because we are likely to have a recession here, again, if we're not experiencing one already in the next couple months. How much pain are the people of West Texas willing to tolerate? Is a depression enough?
Well, I'm glad you asked me about my people, because I can speak about West Texans. They're thinking about the next generation of farmers and ranchers.
Sure.
And they know that the current conditions and relationship that is just completely and totally unfair will bankrupt the farmers of the future. Secondly, the people.
It sounds like the answer is there's no limit.
The people,
you haven't answered the question.
The people of West Texas will tell you, the day you wake up and you have to beg another country for your food and for your energy, like we have to beg for our drugs to be made and computer chips, you tell me what you would pay.
That's silly. This is one of those things that, like, a guy like this just speaks from, like, his feelings. The day you have to wake up and beg a country for your food and your energy, like we're doing, like, is that what's going on? Like, when you go to the grocery store, are you begging? When you go to the gas station, are you begging or are you buying? I hate this type of rhetoric because it makes it so that we can't ever get to the topic. Do we buy energy from other countries? Yes. Why? It's cheaper. Why is it cheaper? They can manufacture it for less. Why can they manufacture it for less? Probably labor. Almost always labor. And profit, right? Like, everything in this country, not only is labor more expensive, but the CEOs of these massive corporations, they want to take a lot of that money out, and they want to keep it for themselves, which raises prices. So why do we buy products from other countries? Because it's cheaper. Is that bad? No. No, it's not bad. It's the same reason. It's the same reason everybody in here doesn't grow all their food. It would be shocking if everybody in here grew their own food. I doubt that they do. What impacts the average American more, lower inflation or falling stocks? Well, look, dude, inflation's not really the problem right now. Inflation has been down for a while, but the problem that we have with inflation, it's a good question. I think that's a fair question, Bumpy. The answer would be lowered inflation. That would affect people more. But the lowered inflation is not a result of what Trump just did with the stock market. The inflation numbers that you just got are the numbers from last month. So if you can't talk about both of those right now. You can't say Trump fucked up the stock market, but it lowered inflation, because it didn't. Inflation, it was lowered by like 0.1%, I think. Like, it's not a significant amount, but we're right in that window. We want to be between 2 and 3% inflation a month over month. That's where we want our inflation to be. We don't want 0. We don't want 1%. We want 2 to 3%. Otherwise, like, the stock market doesn't grow. So you can have both, but when you talk about the effects of what Trump's doing now, the effects of that will be felt months from now. When we look at inflation months from now, that's when we're going to get an indicator of how effective was this. So I think I think you're asking a fair question, but I don't think that saying that inflation right now is at 2.8% is indicative of what he did. We won't know the results of the impact on inflation until months from now. That's when we'll see it. All inflation is is behind, right? It doesn't. You don't do it now and then it fixes it right away. Inflation is a reflection of what you've done in the past. So fair question.
To avoid that for your children. And I know you love your children as much as I do. You tell me that there's no courage in this town to do what the president's doing. And we all recognize there's some transition and discomfort and pain.
All right, so that's the messaging from Republicans: transition, discomfort, pain. They're not going to address what happened. They're not going to stay consistent on if the stock market drops, that the president should be impeached. And I don't agree with that either. I just hope that the next time Democrats in office, just don't let them use the same lie again. That's the real problem. If they lie once, fine. But if they're doing it again the next time, then don't believe him anymore. Here's Dave Rubin, political genius, economic genius. Dave Rubin does a strange thing here. He's trying to explain tariffs, and just tell me I think what he explains here is why you should overthrow capitalism, which, by the way, I'm not a fan of. I like mixed economy, but it seems an awful lot here like he's trying to explain tariffs while saying how bad capitalism is.
If tariffs are so bad, then why do they have them? So it might not be that tariffs are inherently horrible. Tariffs are horrible when you are on the receiving side of the bad end of the tariff.
Who is on the receiving end of Trump's tariffs? We are. Just want to be clear on that. Dave Rubin still doesn't get this. The receiving end of the tariff is the person paying the tariff. So if Trump adds tariffs to a country's goods, we are on the receiving end. I can't believe this guy still has a fucking audience. And I doubt any of you Republicans watch this guy. I don't think he's your go-to. I think his audience is waning. But the people that are still hanging on and watching him, it's shocking.
Trump is trying to tariff so we can eliminate tariffs. And we just told you what's happening in Vietnam and Argentina and Israel and Italy and a couple other countries and apparently 50 other countries and the European Union that are now coming back to the table. So there's few people that are arguing for tariffs for the sake of tariffs. Yes, I want more tariffs and I want them to tariff more and them to tariff more and then we're all going to pay more for everything. I'm not really hearing much of that argument. But if tariffs are bad, then why do they all do it? So you might understand.
I feel like I have to say this every day, but sometimes there's new viewers here. Nobody thinks tariffs are bad. Tariffs are bad when used incorrectly. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I like corn on the cob. I don't like when it's shoved up my ass. Things can be good or bad depending on how they're used. Tariffs are fine. Tariffs used incorrectly are bad.
Why the markets are struggling right now, because Trump is trying to even the playing field. I think I used this analogy last week. You ever play Monopoly when you're a kid and you're playing Monopoly, you got a couple friends around the Monopoly board, and somehow the guy who's also the banker always has a little more cash than everybody. He can somehow buy all those hotels on Baltic Avenue and turn it into Atlantic Avenue. And then you start realizing, oh, every time I turn around or pee, this guy's taking a little cash.
Yeah.
That's basically what's been happening here.
No, it's not. No, not from the other countries. It's our government stealing from you. This is a tax. So what he's talking about right now is our government saying, if you want something from China, you better pay me some money for some reason. For some reason, the government in this case is just saying, we don't like China, so if you buy something from them, you have to pay us some money. So the person he's talking about right here is the government. And the government that's charging these tariffs right now is the Republican government. So it's a weird argument that he's making here. He clearly still does not understand what a tariff is.
And then what happens? Then you throw the board, you hit him with it, you force some of those hotels down his throat. We've all been there. That's what's been going on here. So unless you want Trump to do that to you, come to the table, people. Rumble Premium, and then more on just...
Hey, go to my premium. It sounds an awful lot like he's saying that we should go fuck up the government. That's what it sounds like. Maybe that's what those protests were about this last weekend. Maybe that's what that was all about. Dave Rubin's an idiot. Don't listen to Dave Rubin if you're a Republican and you want to not sound like an idiot. Dave Rubin's not your person. I know, like I said, I'll give you guys some credit. If you're here, you probably don't listen to Dave Rubin. All right. So here's what happened yesterday. Let's talk about it. At what time was this? About 1:37 in the afternoon. I think that's Eastern time. Donald Trump tweets, "This is a great," or truce, and then retweets, "This is a great time to buy DJT." That's the tweet. About 15 minutes. I think it was about 15 minutes later. they announced that they were getting rid of the tariffs. I might have that timeline off. It might have been a few hours. I might be mixing up the 15 minutes. But I think this was the one that was 15 minutes before they announced the pause on tariffs. Here's where it gets questionable. Number one, this ending, DJT. Trump has never ended his tweet with DJT unless he was talking about his stock, DJT. He doesn't do that. He doesn't sign his tweets. For many people saw this as a sign to go buy Trump media stock under the ticker symbol DJT. And if you go look at the purchases from the time Trump sent out this tweet until mostly like the rest of the day, Trump media stock blew up. I also want to remind you of something. This last week, Trump submitted, I guess, documents to the SEC announcing his intent to unload some of his Trump media shares. Do you guys remember that? Do you remember last week when we covered that Trump said through his trust, which is controlled by Eric now, allegedly, that they were going to start unloading some of these shares? We told you about this before the election and after the election, that Trump media is a bullshit stock. It is a company that makes no money. They lose money every single month. Hundreds of millions of dollars they've lost. True Social is not profitable. It's not used a lot, and yet it has a value that makes no sense. And it's because it's been artificially kept afloat by people who just want to support Trump, or investors when Trump says, I'll do you a favor if you keep my stock up. So then he says, now's a great time to buy. If the stock goes up, what's it a great time to do if a stock goes up? Sell. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, Democrats, and I'll get to this in a minute, Democrats are going to demand an investigation. And if you have any integrity at all, you will understand that we should definitely investigate this. You should if Donald Trump tweets it's a great time to buy and puts the stock ticker next to it, if you have any integrity, you should agree that we should investigate this. I'm not saying that you have to say Trump is guilty, but any politician who does this, says it's a great time to buy, and then the next three letters are a stock ticker symbol, you should investigate that. This should be something that everybody agrees on. We'll get to that in a minute. That's how this starts. Then all of a sudden, the stock market starts going. Actually, I want to show. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to go to this. Where's no, I'll do this. So that's how it kicks off. While this is happening, while Trump tweets this, the guy who has been in front of Congress for 2 days, is it Stephen Greer? Is that his name? Is it Stephen? I think it's Stephen Greer. I can't remember. I think it's Stephen Greer. He's the person that all day yesterday said, I'm the point man. You'll remember Tom Tillis saying, whose throat do I get to choke? Who's responsible for these decisions? And he said, it's me. I'm responsible for these decisions. And Tom Tillis said, okay, just so we're clear, it's not Trump. It's not J.D. Vance. You're making these decisions. And he's like, yeah, I'm making these decisions. So now he's back yesterday after saying he makes the decision. And while he's in this room, Trump announced that he's getting rid of the tariffs.
Mr. Trade Representative
Jameson Greer, thank you.
Are you aware that the tariffs have been paused?
I am, yes.
When were you made aware of that?
Well, I understood the decision was made a few minutes ago. It's
Sitting here
under discussion.
Sitting here under discussion. So did you know that this was under discussion, and why did you not include that as part of your opening remarks?
So typically what I don't do is divulge the contents of my discussions.
What are the details of the pause?
Well, my understanding is that because so many countries have decided not to retaliate, we're going to have about 90 days.
No, excuse me? China increased their tariffs on the United States. Trump blinked.
What's the blink, sir?
What do you know about this pause? What are the details of it?
Well, the details, as I understand it, is that China continues to retaliate. Other countries didn't retaliate. The president 2 or 3 days ago said we wanted to negotiate with those countries that asked for meetings. That's what we're doing.
What are the
We've had
details?
discussions.
How long is the pause? How many days? How many weeks?
I understand it's 90 days. I haven't spoken to the president since I've
So
been
the
at this
trade
hearing.
Okay, so the guy who's making the decisions doesn't know any of the details and did not make this decision to pause it. So now his testimony from yesterday doesn't make a great deal of sense. It's me. I'm the one. Come to me. He's the fall guy. And by the way, when this all this is the guy who's going to take the fall. Republicans, learn his name now, because this is who you guys are all going to blame here. When this gets investigated, if the Republicans in Congress aren't able to squash the investigation, this is your fall guy. Say it now. Jamison Greer will be the one that gets in trouble, maybe go to jail. We'll see. This is the person who's going to take the fall, even though it's very clear he's not making the decisions. FOD said, look at the $2.5 billion Charles Schwab made too while investigating. Yeah, I'll show that clip in a minute.
Representative hasn't spoken to the President of the United States about a global reordering of trade.
Yes, I have.
And
I've just
yet
been in the hearing with you.
But yet he announced it on a tweet? WTF? Who's in charge?
The President of the United States is in charge.
Hey, Mike, no. I'm going to talk so much. I might interrupt more now, Mike. I might interrupt the whole time, Mike.
And what do you know about those details?
Well, as I mentioned,
It looks like your boss just pulled the rug out from under you and paused the tariffs, the taxes on the American people. There's no strategy. You just found out 3 seconds ago sitting here. We saw you.
we've been discussing a
If
variety
you
of
came here knowing that you were going to be turned off, that these tariffs were going to be turned off, why didn't you include that in your opening statement? Why didn't you reference that as part of your testimony?
Well, I don't disclose my conversations with the president, sir.
These were specific questions we asked you all along. What's the strategy? These are real consequences for the American people and small businesses. I had a group of small businesses in my office earlier today talking about the impacts of these tariffs on aluminum and steel. This is amateur hour, and it needs to stop. What does this even mean for your negotiating strategy? How are you in charge of negotiation if the president is tweeting about this from wherever the hell he is?
The president was elected, and he runs the trade policy, and I advise him and execute his
Who
trade
executes the trade policy?
I execute the trade
Did you
policy.
know that this was happening?
We have been discussing all kinds of...
And there's another member of the cabinet, Bassett, who just canceled coming to the Hill to avoid talking about the...
Thank you, Chelsea, for saying buying influence. Pink for saying missed the first half because of the musical story time, but I'm down for the rest of the mustache ride. Sorry, couldn't help it. And Chris says another terrific show. Thank you very much for that. I paused it right then because Mike said that I didn't pause it, so that's when we decided to do it. And then Judith, thank you for the donation as well.
The market because it's in turmoil. This in just days because there was no strategy. There was no plan. The president chose to take actions that he didn't even have the authority to take. He's put our economy in disarray and near collapse. We have small businesses and Americans who are concerned about their well-being, people's retirement, people's 529 accounts went down because of this administration.
Now, I actually want to be on the Republican side here for a second. This is the wrong fucking argument. The wrong argument is to say it went down. It just is. It affects a very small amount of people that are currently taking that money out. But it's not an effective argument because the second it goes up, the argument's over, right? The point is, the thing that we should be frustrated about is that they don't seem to have a plan. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason for any of this. If you wanted people to negotiate, call them and negotiate. Why slap these tariffs on? Why not call them and be like, hey, if you don't negotiate with us, we're going to slap these tariffs on. The problem I really have is it's ineffective And it hurts people for no reason, and it causes instability for no reason. The only way that that you're not going to feel unstable is if you've already decided you just trust the process. And that's fine. If you're a Republican here and you're like, I trust the process, cool. But you also just trust it. So I don't think you should be upset when other people who don't trust the process are like, yeah, I don't know. I would like to know what the plan is before I decide whether or not I trust it. You've chosen to trust the plan without knowing the plan. We're asking for the plan. In what world is it smart to just trust one dude? Yeah, he's not going to tell us what to do, but we'll do good. That's the disconnect we have here. You trust him, we don't. I don't think it's smart to trust a politician. You guys do. That's the main difference. Thanks, Purple Kitty and Bean, for joining the Dollar Train.
People that are planning to send their kids to college this fall. People who are retiring whose benefits have declined. Is this market manipulation?
Yes.
Why not? If it was a plan, if it was always the plan, how is this not market manipulation?
It's not market manipulation, sir.
Well, then,
is this market manipulation? No. Okay, well, if it was planned and it manipulated the market, why is it not? It's just not. Sir, it's just not. It's not. I already said it's not.
What is it? Because it sure is not a strategy.
We're trying to reset the global trade system.
That's offshored all of our factories. What has that done? How have you achieved any of that? But to enact enormous harm on the American people, which was our concern from the very beginning. Tariffs are a tool. It can be used in the appropriate way to protect U.S. jobs and small businesses. But that's not what this does. So if it's not market manipulation, what is it? Who's benefiting? What billionaire just got richer? And all the while, there are not even any Republicans left in this hearing. They all left because they don't even want to defend this. But meanwhile, the Speaker is rushing to the floor to pass a budget reconciliation to screw America by passing the biggest tax cut in history on the backs of the American people. WTF? Who's in charge? Because it sure doesn't look like it's the trade representative. You just got the rug pulled out from under you.
I mean, if you're just a person who wants to just follow Donald Trump, like, sure, this is great for you. I get it. We don't. We don't just blindly trust our politicians. I don't know who it was. Somebody in here said Nancy Pelosi said that you have to pass a bill before you find out what's in it. Yeah. You know who criticized the shit out of Nancy Pelosi when that happened? Me. I agree. Nancy Pelosi also needs to go. Nancy Pelosi sucks. Watch this. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down on Nancy Pelosi. You want to see us come together here? Watch this. Republicans and Democrats alike. Thumbs up if you like Nancy Pelosi. Thumbs down if you don't like Nancy Pelosi. I don't know what the demographics are here. What like Republican to Democrat. I know like our like to dislike ratios like 90-10 likes to dislike. So I think there's more liberals than conservatives here. But look at this. Find me a fucking thumbs up. Find me a fucking thumbs up here. Nobody gives a shit about Nancy fucking Pelosi. We all want Nancy Pelosi gone too. So let's have the discussion then. Stop deflecting to Nancy Pelosi. All right, let's do it again. Thumbs up or thumbs down for Chuck Schumer, please. Thumbs up or thumbs down for Chuck Schumer now. Let's do that one. Thumbs down. Stop making arguments that we're not making. We don't like her either. And we don't like her for the same fucking reason you guys don't like her. But you don't like her for doing things that Trump does. And when Trump does, you don't give a shit. We've been calling on this show for her to step down for years now. Same with Chuck Schumer. We want her gone. She's closer to your side than she is to ours. She goes along with all this dumb spending every fucking time. Look at that. Nobody's in on Chuck Schumer. Nobody's in on Nancy Pelosi. Now let's do this. George Soros. Thumbs up, thumbs down, George Soros. How many more names do you want us to go over here? How many more whataboutisms do we have to play here before you guys realize that we're not who you think we are? We just want shit to make sense. We understand that we lost. We understand you guys won this election. We understand that you guys are going to pass bills that we don't like. We just want you to tell us about it. We just don't want it to be done in secret. We want your leaders to do their job, which is to tell the American people what the fuck they're doing. That's it. That's all we're asking for. This whole debate about market manipulation, you guys keep going, inflation, eggs, stock market, up, down. We're mad that they don't tell us what they're doing. We're mad that it's a big fucking secret. And you guys are playing whataboutism with shit we don't even care about. We just don't like blindly following someone. And you're mad that we don't like blindly following the person that you're blindly following. If you support what's happening now, you didn't vote for it unless what you voted for was to do whatever Donald Trump wants, because he didn't tell you this was the plan. He's not telling you what the plan is now. You have no fucking clue, which is why yesterday we did a 3.5-hour show, and all you say motherfuckers were here going, yeah, dude, we're going to keep these tariffs going forever. That's right, baby. We'll ride them out for it might take 2 years. We'll have tariffs on these motherfuckers for 2 years. And today you're like, yeah, great move by Trump. He did it. You have no clue. You don't even know what to argue every day. It's so confusing that you have to switch your arguments almost every day just to fall in line with Trump. And don't think that people don't remember your usernames. We see you. We see the same people here every fucking day. You made the exact opposite argument yesterday, and you're here celebrating this. Make up your fucking minds, or just be honest. Whatever he does, you'll celebrate. Whatever he does, you'll call gold. He could shit down your throat and you'd be like, thank you, sir, for the Frosty. It was delicious. It tasted weird, though. There's a lot of ketchup in that Frosty. It was weird. Brian said Martha Stewart has a few questions about your thoughts on market manipulation. Martha Stewart's going like, I thought that shit was a crime. What did I go to prison for? To further illustrate the point that you guys were in here defending this yesterday, I'd like to also point out that just yesterday, all of your politicians were saying, we're not going to quit. It's never going to end until they capitulate. Whoops.
This time I'm doing what I want to do with respect to the tariffs.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that.
The president was asked and answered this yesterday. He said he's not considering an extension or a delay. I spoke to him before this briefing. That was not his mindset. He expects that these tariffs are going to go into effect.
There's no postponing. They are definitely going to stay in place for days and weeks. That is sort of obvious.
Days and weeks. Days. It's the 10th. You see the date right there, April 6th. Days and weeks? No. No?
But the president needs to reset global trade. I don't think there's any chance.
By the way, that doesn't mean anything. You can't reset global trade. And you guys that are sitting here, like, if you're repeating that today, fuck all the way off. That's not a thing. You can't reset global trade unless you control global trade. Did other countries stop trading? Did we shut down global trade? We shut down global trade to us. The rest of the world kept trading. China's cleaning up. China is whooping our ass right now. This is just every time Trump gets in office, China's like, fuck yeah, this is going to go great for us. Every time Trump's in office, China and Russia are like, woohoo! That's why they don't ever like trying to have him not be president. That's why you have Chinese government and Russian government influencing our elections, and they want Trump. Because he's so cocky that even when they beat him in a trade deal, he goes back home and he says they won, and they're like, this is great. Because now he's got to double down on the same shit. Now he's going to have to say that he won. So China whoops his ass in a negotiation. China's happy as hell. Trump goes home to America and is like, guys, look, I did it again. And now you have millions of people just like you who repeat that line, and China's like, hell yeah, this is great. Oh, give us all the Trump. Give us so much Trump. He gets his ass beat every fucking day.
That President Trump's going to back off his tariffs. This is the reordering of global trade.
We're going to hold the course, and this has been years in the building, years in the making.
This time I'm doing what I want to do with respect to the tariffs.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that.
The president was asked and answered this yesterday. He said he's not considering an extension or a delay. I spoke to him before this briefing. That was not his mindset. He expects that these tariffs are going to go into effect.
There's no postponing. They are definitely going to stay in place for days and weeks. That is sort of obvious. The president needs to reset global trade. I don't think there's any chance that President Trump's going to back off his tariffs. This is the reordering of global trade.
We're going to hold the course, and this has been years in the building, years in the making.
This time I'm doing what I want to do with respect to the tariffs.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
I do love this. I do love this. All right, Republicans in the chat, let's talk about it. Think about what you're saying right now. You just said that the Chinese markets crashed because of Trump, and so that's bad for them. But when our markets crash because of Trump, it's good for us. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. In China, it's bad if the market goes down, but in America, it's good if the market goes down. Markets are different, and it's because theirs is over there and ours is over here. So when ours goes down, it's good, and when theirs goes down, it's bad. Yes, Trump can affect Chinese markets. He absolutely can. But what China can do now when Trump alienates all of our trade partners is China shows up at their door and goes, hey, you guys ever heard of stability? It's pretty fucking cool. We'll give you stability. And they're like, yeah, maybe we should do stability instead of like dealing with a psycho. If you have two choices of places to go get your oil changed, and one of them, every time you go in there, they charge you the same price. It's $85. It's every time it's $85. You're like, it's a little expensive. It's $85, and they do a great job. They come out, your car's clean, your oil is changed, and then there's a place next door, and you're like, well, sometimes he charges me $25. Sometimes he charges me $150. 3 of the times my car got stolen. One time there was somebody took a shit on my seat. One time I found $100 on my seat after. You're not going to go to like Lottery Jacks to get your oil change. You're going to go to the person who gives you consistency. And China gives consistency. They understand this so much better than Donald Trump. And frankly, like, we understood it. China has been kicking our ass for a while. China beat Biden's ass too, by the way. China's winning. You guys are out of your fucking minds if you don't think China's winning. And this benefits them. That's why China isn't backing down. That's why China's slapping Trump with bigger tariffs. They don't care. They can withstand this. We cannot. Do you know what percentage of their exports come to the United States? Where's my Republic? You guys are in the chat. What percentage of Chinese exports go to the United States? What do you think? Out of 100% of their exports, what percentage of their exports come here? Anybody? Median income in China? That doesn't mean anything. Try and keep up, Bumpy. It's not what we're talking about. Purchasing power of China? I don't want to answer your question, so I'm just going to keep saying dumb things. Military prowess of China? I'm glad you fucking asked that one. I'll get to that in a second. 12%. 12% of their exports come here. You don't think China can withstand losing 12% and then replacing it? Yeah, they can replace it. And by the way, while we're talking about military prowess, and I know you guys love your military, and I know that you guys love our SecDef. I'll get to that in a minute. They're better at us than at military too. Bernie Sanders points out here the obvious.
President Trump posted on social media that it was, quote, a great time to buy stocks. A few hours later, he announced a pause on tariffs, which sent the market skyrocketing. Your colleague, Senator Adam Schiff, says Congress should investigate whether Trump and his inner circle engaged in insider trading.
I noticed that, and that's just one of another.
Thanks, Austin Sophia.
Imagine, do I have? No, I don't know for a fact.
Thanks, Amber, and Amber also says fuck text.
Well, would I be surprised if there were people who hours before knew exactly what Trump was going to do in rescinding his tariff proposals, understanding that the stock market would soar and you make huge amounts of money? Would I be shocked if we learned about that in the days to come? No, I would not.
Does that announcement that he did give cover to anybody who did buy stocks?
Well, what it does do, look, if you know 2 hours earlier that the stock market's going to go, what are you going to do? You're going to buy a hell of a lot of stock. You're going to invest in the stock market. But it's not only that. I mean, you got a president of the United States who is now working to give government cover to crypto, and whose family is involved in crypto. makes money by selling coins, crypto coins. Anybody can contribute, which is a direct line to the president. So, I have serious problems with all that.
Again, if Joe Biden, if Hunter Biden had made a fraction of what Donald Trump has made and what his kids have made off of using their name and taking foreign donations, you probably would have been able to impeach Joe. But you don't care. Like, they're literally funneling. Like, if you're any country, you can just funnel money through Donald Trump. And here's how it works. Just so we're aware. If you take $100 million and you buy $100 million worth of Trump token, and then 5 minutes later you sell $100 worth of Trump token. I don't know what the gas is. Let's call it 3%. Let's say that the exchange fee is 3%. Donald Trump keeps 3% when you buy and 3% when you sell. And so you didn't have to risk $100 million. You got most of it back, but you were able to just funnel money to Donald Trump because he's the one that gets those gas fees. So you can just bribe this guy anytime you want, and none of you guys even want to talk about it. We can't even get you to talk about it. This guy has a slush fund, and we can't even get you to address it. No, it's fine. Everything he does is perfect. Everything he does is fine. That's pretty wild. I mean, for the people who, like, you spent 4 years trying to impeach Joe Biden, and you had $0 and 0 cents that you could track back to him. We're talking about, I think this was a month ago, Trump had made something like $300 million off of that. $300 million. And look at that. You guys are mad that I'm making money. Yeah, this lib creator, he makes almost $300 a day some days. Yeah, you got made $300 million being bribed. I don't even have power. He's got power. You don't care. You guys are trash. Your opinions are such trash. Get out of the cuck chair, folks. The truth is, he did this to make his friends a bunch of money, and now he's got a bunch of businesses that are upset. And this, we can go back and I think it was last week at some point. This was my exact prediction. If we can figure out a way to stitch this with the prediction last week, what I said is Trump would pause the tariffs, and then Trump would negotiate with companies who do a lot of business in China, and they would come flooding to Donald Trump, and he would carve out exemptions for them, his donors, the people that came and kissed his ass. And the richest among us would get exemptions, and the rest of us would just be fucked. Here's Trump admitting that now. This is the most transparent plan ever. It's so dumb that it's incredibly easy to predict. Here's Trump just making me look, let's be honest, I look really smart right now. Does anybody look smart? Anybody look smarter than me right now? Everybody, we all saw this coming.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sir, would you consider exempting some U.S. companies, maybe just larger companies who have been hit hard in the markets the last few days during this time?
As time goes by, we're going to take a look at it. There are some that have been hard. There are some that, by the nature of the company, get hit a little bit harder. We'll take a look at that. Just instinctively, more than anything else. I mean, you almost can't take a pencil to paper. It's really more of an instinct, I think, than anything else.
Yeah. I'm just going to pick him. Trust my guy. He just said, trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. Trust. Yeah, there's probably some things. There was something I agreed with Trump on in the last 100 days. What was the executive order that I liked? I'm trying to remember what it was. I can't remember what it was. So, does anybody remember the executive order he signed? He signed like a million. He signed like 30 yesterday. I spent 2 hours reading executive orders yesterday. I can't remember which one it was. Yeah, he just said trust me, though. And you guys are like, yeah, we're just going to trust him. How are you going to decide? Oh, it's just my feelings. There's no way to defend this. You'll see, like, over and over, nobody has the ability to defend this. Here's Elizabeth Warren on with Joe Kernan. I'm sure you guys are going to say CNBC is lib, which is crazy. It's like one of the most conservative channels. It's more conservative than Fox Business. Joe Kernan, who's a massive Trump supporter, does not want to talk to Elizabeth Warren, and he does not want to answer this question because the answer is so obvious, and he'll get in so much trouble saying it that he's like, I'm going to run away from this conversation.
Remember our last conversation. This is almost like part two. Remember our last conversation about price gouging. So now you've really...
Oh, yeah, the concert ticket prices. I did like that one, even though that was already a law. But yeah, that was one of them. I don't think that's the one I was thinking of.
Now you got another way to say that corporations are doing it. Egg prices came down and inflation came down. It seems like the corporations only gouge when you say they're gouging, and then they're unable to at other times.
All right, let's clear this up here because Joe Kernan, he's smart enough to know this. Price gouging is not raising prices. Price gouging is charging people more than you need to. That's what price gouging is. Like when egg prices go up, the reason that that supermarkets had to charge more for eggs is because we had a bunch of chickens that were diseased, and so there was less supply. That was supply and demand. Trump didn't do anything to cause the prices to go down. Biden didn't do anything to cause the prices to go up. We had whatever the bird flu, I think it was HN9 or what, H9NPC. I don't know what it is. That's what that was. Like, I think it's stupid that we ever were arguing about egg prices. Anyways, it was clear what that was. Trump didn't cause it to go down. He didn't cause it to go up. Either did Biden. That's just a thing that happened. Okay, so that's not price gouging. That's supply and demand. What he's talking about there when he talks about inflation is a response to it can be supply and demand too, right? Inflation, if inflation is lower, that is a sign of a little bit healthier economy. It shows that the prices are rising along with our wealth. That's what inflation is supposed to do. So good try there by Joe Kernan. But that's not what price gouging is. Price gouging is when you gouge people for no reason, outside of supply side economics, outside of supply and demand. And Elizabeth Warren's going to give him an example that perfectly explains it, and he's literally going to run from it.
At other times.
So I know you don't want to listen to me on this, but listen to Jerome Powell on this. The example he gave on Friday was from the last time that Trump's tariffs went into effect. And he said there was a tariff on washing machines. No surprise, the price of washing machines went up. But the shock...
Okay, makes sense, right? You put a tariff on the washing machine goes up. So that is not price gouging. That is Whirlpool, for example, adjusting to a tariff placed by the government. That's not price gouging. But what is price gouging?
The shocking part is the price of dryers went up as well, even though there was no imposition of tariffs on those. You tell me what that is except for price gouging.
Trying to figure
this response is unfucking believable. Republicans, I just want you to get ready for some whataboutism because this is no response here. Just dead in the water, but he knows but he knows he can't go against Elizabeth Warren, so he's dead in the water. Let me finish this clip real quick, Jen.
That unless you have a clothesline, unless you have a clothesline out back, you need the dryer, though, Senator.
Well, you need the dryer, but the price doesn't go up on dryers. The cost of dryers didn't go up.
Growing up.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
I love the way you're changing the subject here. That is an example of price gouging. I think it's time for you to eat that.
They say we had less than a minute left.
Now they say we can keep it.
Now we can keep it
Oh,
going.
now we can keep it
I don't want to keep it.
I don't want to keep it going. I don't want to.
Senator, let me ask you a little bit.
Brilliant. All right. Apparently, we have some opposition here. Go ahead, Jen. Maybe. Well, I'll just jump in there. All right. Big hitter man. What's up?
What up? What up?
Hey. Can you hear me all right? Oh, let's try that. I gotta unmute that. Can you hear me? Let's try that. Can you hear me all right?
Hey, yeah, I can.
Hey, what's up?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man.
So I'm LP in the chat. You've seen me in there a few times.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, we agree on some things, disagree on a few more.
Okay.
But we're respectful.
All right.
For your...
What do you want to talk about?
Well, so the point of the tariffs, right? So a lot of people are scared. You know, big number go red. It's not a happy day for most people, unless you're a volatility trader, for instance. The whole point of the tariffs is, and this is why the average Republican is saying things like, "Oh, trust the process." things like that, is the whole point is that the U.S. has been in an unfavorable trade agreement for a very long time, since
With who?
after the 50s, 60s.
With who?
With all our allied nations.
What's unfavorable about it?
Well, that there's tariffs on us to begin with.
Why is that unfavorable?
Well, if we're allies, if we're the bad guys for wanting to establish the same kind of tariffs, does that not make our own allies our own enemies by not being more willing to support the U.S. for how much they do for other countries?
Do you think that my argument is that we're the bad guys for doing tariffs?
I
okay. Let me explain the argument. My argument is that tariffs can be a useful tool when used correctly. So, for example, the 100% tariff that Biden put on electric vehicles, that was useful so that a product that was much better than what we make and cheaper than what we make here in America wouldn't come in from China, flood our market, and kill American manufacturing for electric vehicles. That's an example of a tariff that protects Americans. Blanket tariffs across the entire world, specifically China, with no explained benefit, are a problem. What is the benefit of putting tariffs on Chinese goods?
So China, for the longest, has been playing an economic game. I know it's not a comfortable topic to have, but China is our enemy. They've never been our friends.
Why are they our enemy?
Well, China doesn't have friends. If you look at any agreement China gets into, it is to the benefit of China and the detriment of the country.
Could you give me an example?
Like the Belt and Road Initiative.
Could you give me an example of
African ports?
Okay.
So, for instance,
what's the example?
The way these programs work, it's called the Belt and Road Initiative. The whole point, we did this before in the book, The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It talks about how the U.S. did the exact same thing in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
What we would do is we'll establish a loan, and the collateral being is a port, right? So a place of entry and trade. Very important. It can upgrade a country, but if implemented poorly, it could be the downfall of a country. The way it works is we tell you this: hey, we're going to build a port for you. It's going to be a great port. It's going to be functional. It's going to be secure. And on top of that, we're going to have skilled U.S. workers build the ports for you.
So like the Panama Canal?
Exactly, like the Panama Canal.
Cool.
I'm not saying we didn't do this. I'm saying we 100% did this. This is why I even know about.
Okay, but
this.
I asked about. We're talking about tariffs here. Can you explain to me the unfair trade between us and China? What's unfair about our trade?
This all circles back to that. Though the whole point is that China's playing an economic war with us,
and we're playing too.
Yeah.
So why is the solution not to go sit down with them and say, let's stop fucking around and let's negotiate a deal? Why does it always have to be this type of escalation? This seems like the dumbest possible way to solve a problem, to just unilaterally place tariffs, fuck over your own citizens, and be like, we have to be tough on China. Has that worked? Has the idea of being tough on China and military proliferation, has that been beneficial to anybody?
I mean, it's no different than what China's doing.
I understand that, but the question I asked is it beneficial to anybody?
Well, yeah.
Who?
Yeah, that's the whole point that we're supporting this.
Who's it beneficial to?
To the U.S.
Okay, how will it benefit us?
It'll benefit us because it's going to reduce the attractiveness of investing in foreign countries, for example, specifically China.
But simultaneously, it's making our country less attractive to invest in.
Yeah, I mean it's a shift. Money's moving from one place to the other.
Like everything we do hurts us in the same way it hurts them. So what's the benefit?
No, it hurts them worse.
How does it hurt?
Not the same.
12% of their trade comes to America. 12%.
So
if we don't, the biggest sectors of our economy will be decimated without China.
Not decimated. I mean, we're not completely.
Where are we going to get our electronics?
With China.
Where are we going to get?
It's not like we're not.
Where are we going to get our electronics?
Well, I mean, it's kind of silly to think that only China could provide electronics.
Where
the only reason why China
who else is doing it?
do it the cheapest is because of the labor that they use.
Where else are we going to get it then?
Well, I mean, we could manufacture it ourselves.
How long do you think it would take before we could do manufacturing like that?
Wages. Well, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. I won't.
Yeah.
I won't pretend I am.
So why don't we just negotiate a good? So why don't we just keep working with them then?
Well, okay. So, like I was saying, the whole point of these tariffs is that China's playing an economic game. What they're doing is they're exchanging cheap labor for U.S. dollars. So the return of investment, it seems like China's losing. They're like, oh, wow, they're giving us all this cool stuff and it's so cheap. But China's winning this economic war.
Yeah.
Because they're getting all these U.S. dollars, all this U.S. investment. They're taking it away from the U.S. and our allies, so they don't benefit from this trade outside of getting cheap products.
Yeah.
But you also get cheap products that requires you repurchasing them constantly. So
let's talk about this then. So I agree with everything you just said there. I agree that China is winning. If China doesn't blink, who wins?
China blinked.
China didn't blink.
They already blinked.
When?
They did blink.
When?
So I don't have to. They're already entering into trade agreements with us.
That's not. Are they more favorable?
I would imagine. I would maybe not.
What
them.
trade agreements did China enter into some trade agreements since I've been live? There were no trade agreements before I went live. But who needs who more? That's the real question. Can we replace China quickly? No. Can China replace us?
No.
Yeah, China. It's going to be much easier for China to replace us.
No, they couldn't replace us.
It's 12. Well, it's 12%. It's 12%.
We're one of their biggest. We're one of their biggest importers.
I know, but the one of the reasons that China doesn't need us is they can replace that 12%. They can go and get all the people that we've traded with, and they can bypass us, and they can go, and they can now, like, if they don't have any reason to not infringe on IP, then they can just go and they can replicate the iPhone. They already make it. They can, every product that we make electronically in America, China can do it tomorrow, and they can sell it to Canada for cheaper than we can. China has all the leverage here. We don't have the leverage. This is for years, for decades, we have had the leverage, and we have used that leverage in a way that was unfair to other countries. And now that those countries have caught up to us, and they're doing to us what we've been doing to them, we have a president now who's saying this is unfair, but China already has us over a barrel. He doesn't understand where the point he's negotiating from.
But they don't, because we have been considering moving our trade manufacturing over to Mexico, which I think is a far smarter idea because Mexico is not an enemy state.
So then why doesn't China just go to why doesn't China just go to Mexico, which, by the way, they're already doing? China has already been working.
That's why we put enhanced tariffs on Mexico.
Why would Mexico not choose to just cut us off and go work with China instead?
Because we're their next door neighbors.
Who cares?
It's just so cheap logistically.
Who cares?
We're talking about money, right? We're dealing with capitalism.
How much? Yeah,
it's not in anyone's best interest.
Sure, it is.
I have a choice between making $1 and making 50 cents. Sure. I'd rather make $1.
Yeah, but that's not how trade works with China. Like it is. No. It is not. No, I'm sorry. What you're saying is true. What I'm saying is trading with other partners, we don't have the leverage over Canada and Mexico like we think we do. They're already looking.
We do.
No, we don't. It can be replaced.
Canada benefits a lot from the U.S.
Listen,
especially from U.S. aid.
I'm not saying they don't benefit. I'm saying we can be replaced. I'm saying we're not irreplaceable. I'm not saying that right now they don't rely on us. I'm telling you that we're replaceable, and it would make, if I'm Canada or if I'm Mexico and I'm looking at 2 months of Trump, who is like, I'm just going to slap tariffs whenever the fuck I want. And I look at China and I'm like, oh, China's consistent. I'm going to do trade with China. Why the fuck why would anybody want to trade with the United States? Why would anybody want to trade with the United States right now?
Well, we're allies. We provide the best manufacturing quality, and
Trump's talking about turning Canada into a 51st state and invading Mexico. I don't know if they think we're allies. I don't know if they think we're allies right now. A lot of it's hype, but why is he doing? That's what I'm saying. This instability of a madman running our country, they don't want to deal with it.
That's Trump's play, though.
Yeah,
he does a lot of this braggadocious
and they're
nonsense.
all calling his bluff. Canada and Mexico already.
They're not calling.
They did before. Remember,
we already have established 20 new trade agreements with we established 2 new trade deals.
We're talking about Canada and Mexico. Both called his bluff when he slapped tariffs on them. And what the deal that he got back in return was a deal that was already in place. They gave up nothing. They called his bluff.
You mean resecuring the borders? But hey,
that was already happening. That had already been negotiated.
No, it wasn't.
Kamala Harris negotiated that deal with Mexico for 10,000 troops.
But it wasn't followed through on.
It was followed through on. It absolutely was.
No, it was. Our border was unsecure. Like, if you look at the rate of crossing then versus
their job
now,
wasn't to secure the border. Their job was to secure their southern border. And when that deal went into place, you had a lot less people coming in through their southern border. Trump got
Why is that?
Trump got a photo op. Trump's like, send some troops here, and they're like, okay, and then they sent some troops and they took a picture. Nobody's even crossing the border right now. He got nothing.
Well, why? Why are they not crossing now?
Mostly because the global insecurity changed. Like Venezuela there was a coup in Venezuela. Yes, dude. Yes. Why? If it's Trump, if it's because Trump got this negotiation, then you've got to explain to me why southern border encounters were precipitously dropping for like 7 straight months before Trump took office. So they were just magically going down?
That's true.
Okay, do you want to see?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see the screen? Or no?
Are you... Oh, Discord, one sec.
You probably can't see it on Discord. You'll have to look on the... I don't know if you have a second device. I can probably...
your channel?
Yeah. Is this the one? All right, let's go to border encounters. All right, so these are border encounters from now. We maxed out at border encounters in 2022. We were up around, I think at one point it hit 300,000-ish, right? Here we are, 2.4, 2.5, or 250,000. By where's December? Right there. We have border encounters drop. They were coming here. You can see the chart here. This is enforcement encounters. Look at this. Look at this dropping.
Right, but I mean, even though it's dropping, we still have 2.1 million unaccounted for people that have entered.
But Trump got nothing out of that trade deal to do anything about that. He got everything that was already established.
He got tariffs on him.
No, he dropped the tariffs. He dropped them. This is the crazy thing. This is how stupid it is. Donald Trump negotiated a deal with Canada and Mexico that said we can't put tariffs on each other. Then he blamed them for an immigration problem that isn't their fault. And he said, I'm going to slap tariffs on you. And then they called him and they were like, okay, what do you want? And he's like, exactly what you're already giving us. And they're like, cool. That's what happened. You think it was Mexico and Canada's fault that a bunch of people showed up from El Salvador, from Venezuela, from Colombia? No, there was global instability, and so they showed up here. And Trump knew that when he left office. His last day on his way out of office, he said, all these Venezuelans coming here, that's our bad. We've been messing in Venezuela. We're going to give them temporary protected status. One of the last things he did before he left office was give Venezuelans temporary protected status.
Sure, and if they're escaping war, famine, or serious,
I don't want to go back to that because I want to stay on tariffs. I don't want to go back to that. Again, let's circle back now. Donald Trump lost to Canada and Mexico. He's losing to China. He just had to drop all of these tariffs, which he absolutely did because of their reaction, their lack of reaction. Japan started selling treasury bonds, and everybody went to Trump and said, "You have to end this now," and he did. The world called. The world caused. The world cough, and you can call his bluff anytime you want. We're getting dusted.
Well, I mean,
we're getting dusted.
Are we going to ignore the new trade deals that were established?
What new trade deals?
Just Google. There's been 2 new trade deals with 20 nations.
No, the trade deals, unless something has happened since I started, there were 20 countries who submitted an offer. That's it. There's no new trade deals. There were 20 countries who had submitted an offer. I don't know if those
they're almost closed. You're right.
I don't know if those offers are good or bad, but it didn't work against China. China called our bluff, and now China gets to go negotiate with Mexico and Canada and all these other countries. And China, when they go to the negotiating table, they get to say what I just said. They get to say, look, we can provide you with what America provided you, and we'll also provide you with stability. We're not going to just slap tariffs on you for the fuck of it. And when they and then when they negotiate with Trump and Trump says, I promise not to slap tariffs on you, they'll say, okay, but you promised Mexico and Canada that you wouldn't slap them with tariffs, and you did. So nobody trusts him. He's a liar. He goes back on all of his promises. Donald Trump negotiates as a bully, and the only way he can negotiate and win is with leverage. I've read Art of the Deal. If you've read Art of the Deal, you know the whole book the book is established leverage. He doesn't have the leverage that he thinks, and his inconsistency has ruined his track record. That's why why do you think the markets are crashing today still, even though tariffs are paused?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So the reason why the markets crash is for one, it's not a crash, okay? Because can't call something what it's not.
How is 1,000 points a day not a crash?
It's a correction.
To what?
A crash is going to have to be more substantial. A correction is
when is it a crash?
Corrections are normal.
When is it well? This isn't normal. This has never. This hasn't happened. This isn't normal.
Well, no, these things do happen.
When was the last time this happened?
Dollar loss is different, but
no,
there's also a lot more money now since the last correction.
When was the last time?
2021.
When was the last time we saw 1,000-point drops every single day for like 5 days?
Every single day, not necessarily, but seeing large swaths, like $1 trillion losses, that's happened. Like that.
Listen, brother, with all due respect, you're just saying rhetoric. You're just saying shit because.
I'm not saying rhetoric.
Yeah, you are. You're saying
it's not a
crash, it's a correction. And then you said, well, it can't be a can't be a crash.
Though, so you're disingenuous.
I'm fear mongering.
Yeah, you're calling it a crash.
It is a crash.
That's not true.
What's a crash then?
Not true. Not a crash.
Well, what's the definition of a market crash then?
So, I mean, just going off of the internet's definition, it's a double-digit percentage loss in a major index, but
which we've had every single day.
A decline of over 10% in the stock market index over a period of several days.
Okay, are we below 10%? Are we below 10%? What's the drop? Let's look here.
Well, this all began back on.
I mean, we've dropped 3.7% today in the S&P. We've dropped 3% in the Dow just today. You're telling, and this isn't even one of our biggest days. We're well over 10%, bud. So I think it's down someone said 30. It's down 30% total since January.
I don't know what the breakdown is on how many days, but if the news isn't calling it a crash and all the financial experts I listen to call it a correction.
You just said 10. Well, look, you just said 10%. Wait, hold on. Can we just be clear? Can we just be clear that you said 10% is a crash, and then when you found out it was more than 10%,
over a period of a couple days,
and then when you found out it was more than 10%, you just changed your mind. You're like, never mind. The people I listen to aren't calling it a crash. I'm guessing the people you listen to are investors, right?
Yeah.
So are they incentivized to not give you FUD? They're incentivized. They're incentivized to lie to you. Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, sure, some are. I won't say that there aren't people getting paid to, be a trumpet, but
look at every crash. Look at every crash in the history. Look at 2008. How many people said it was a crash? 99% of people in finance were saying it's not a crash. Don't worry, it'll rebound. And 1% of them are like, and 1% are like, we're fucked, and we were fucked.
Well, no, I mean, because as soon as the news calls it a crash, it immediately it's already recovering by the time they call it a crash.
I think you're making my point for me. I'm saying it's a crash. You're saying that the news isn't calling it a crash. You're making my point that the news is lying to you, that they're trying to soften it.
You mean the news that is primarily liberal media that's been constantly?
Bro, I showed Fox. I've showed Fox Business and CNBC today. I haven't shown CNN or MSNBC.
CNBC is not.
Bro, CNBC is is literally like they just do the bidding of corporations. It's not right or
No,
left.
they did
I
a
just
whole
showed
pump and dump.
I just showed you a clip of him running from saying like talking about price gouging.
I'm not watching your current stream right now.
Well, before you came
can't
up,
see
I
it.
was showing a clip of CNBC literally running because Elizabeth Warren's like, this is like talking about price gouging, giving an example of price gouging. I'm not going to argue right or left. CNBC is not right or left. They are pro-corporation. And they're up there softening the blow. And Howard Lutnick's up there softening the blow. You're making my argument
do you
that
trust the news or do you not trust the news?
No, you do. You're making their argument. I'm making the argument that they're lying to you.
So when they say it's a crash and I say it's not,
they're not
or
saying
when
it's
they say
a crash.
It's not a crash, and I still say it's not.
No, they're saying what you say. They're saying it's not. It's a correct. It's a correction, not a crash.
Yeah.
So and you said that the reason you think that is because of the people that you watch and you follow. You're just repeating what they're saying.
Well, no, I'm also, I invest actively. I don't just listen to what people tell me.
That doesn't mean anything to me, man. 99% of people who invest actively were all wrong in 2008. Almost everybody that was a normal investor, that was an active investor, almost all of them were wrong. The last people on earth to ever get this shit right when it goes down are investors, because you guys don't want to see it go down. You want to see things through rose-colored glasses.
You're thinking of stock investors. I'm an options trader.
Who was the options trader that was getting it right in 2008? Very few of them, right?
I don't think options were as big as credit swaps were in 2008.
Sure, I know, but I'm just saying, who was the options trader that was getting it right?
You're talking about Mike
You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Burry. You mean Michael Burry?
Sure.
The Big
Yeah.
Short?
Yeah, Michael Burry. There was like 4 of them. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's Michael Burry saying?
Well, I hate to say it, but Michael Burry was right once, and then every single time he said, "Oh, it's a crash. It's the end of the market." It never happened. He said that about 2011. He said that about COVID. He said that about 2021.
Yeah. Mike, the reason that it doesn't crash, by the way, is Michael Burry is correct. I will argue all day long that Michael he doesn't always predict it right, but the reason he doesn't get his predictions right is because we have a completely fraudulent market. When you look at the reason that the market crashed in 2009, it was these over leveraged, over traded CDOs and then synthetic CDOs that were built up that they said were AAA rated, that were just mostly shit. And Michael Burry went through, and Michael Burry understood that when the adjustable rates kicked in, that it would crash that entire market. And if you look at VC right now, which is specifically tech VC, it's the same exact fucking thing. Instead of CDOs, they have CLOs, collateralized loan obligations. And those CLOs have adjustable rates. And those CLOs are attached largely, the collateral is largely stock. And so when these adjustable rates kick in, as people are starting to default, the adjustable rates will kick in, they will skyrocket, and the collateral that backs these loans will have to be sold off. So it's the exact same thing. What we're seeing right now is the exact same thing we saw in 2009, where none of this makes any sense, and the banks are trying to create themselves at least a net neutral position. That's why you see a ton of investment into crypto right now, is they are trying to get themselves out of this position, secure a position where they'll either be net positive, net equal, or barely net negative, and they're securing this position while artificially keeping our economy or our stock market afloat. Our entire stock market has been a bubble for 15 years. Michael Burry's right. He just keeps thinking that somewhere along the line, people are going to do the right thing and they're going to stop fucking Americans over. But unfortunately, the people in charge, they have so much money. The people that are keeping these propped up, they have so much money and so much influence that they're able to convince retail investors to keep investing in these horrific stocks. Tesla's the perfect example. Tesla makes less money than any other auto manufacturer, and they're the most valuable stock. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, I mean, the whole thing about Tesla is they're not a car manufacturer.
No, that's right. That's what they say. That's what they say, right? But if you look at revenues, which is how the stock really should be a reflection of profitability. But what they've done, what VC has done, what tech has done, is they've eliminated. They're like, we're not going to talk about revenues anymore. Our stock is going to be based on potential and future investment and future profits, and we get to just make up those numbers. And people, when Elon Musk goes and invests in a company, hundreds of thousands of people follow him and invest because historically his investments have gone up, despite the fact that they don't make any money. It's completely It's completely fraudulent, and it's going to pop at some point. We're in the late stages of it, and I think that what Trump is doing right now is giving handouts to his friends. I think it's very clear. That's why Elon is in Starlink. That's why Elon is in SpaceX, because he knows his bubble's about to burst, and what he needs is government contracts. So he's out here securing government contracts. He went to Doge, didn't find any waste, fraud, and abuse, just stuff he didn't like, and then walked out with like an $8 billion defense contract.
I would agree, but SpaceX and Starlink. So let's look at the competitors: Virgin Galactic and NASA. Virgin Galactic isn't doing the things SpaceX, and NASA is doing a whole lot less.
Yeah, but that's because we gave NASA to SpaceX. You ever been to SpaceX?
No.
Okay, well, I have. You know what's cool about going to SpaceX? You park at NASA, and then they drive you around, and you'll be like, there's the stuff NASA used to do, and there's the SpaceX rocket. Barack Obama handed NASA to SpaceX. Elon didn't build it. He took all these NASA scientists, he took all the technology that the American taxpayers have built up over decades, and he handed it over to Elon Musk. And then Trump handed him even more.
Well, yeah, it's a favorable deal. It's not unfavorable, which would be a conflict of interest.
Well, it was favorable. I would argue now it's not.
Why not?
What's our return? What return on investment are we getting from SpaceX? How much are we benefiting from SpaceX?
Being astronauts.
No, what are we benefiting? How's that helping us?
What do you mean? It's a waste of money anyway. But
okay, so then why don't we just stop funding SpaceX and let Elon do it on his own?
He is.
No, he's not. You don't think he's? You think the government's not Wait, you don't think the government? You don't know that the government is subsidizing SpaceX?
Yes, I'm.
So he's not doing it on his own. We're paying for it.
Well, he's giving it out.
What?
Was he always getting subsidized by?
Every company he has, he gets government subsidies. That's the only way he can make money. He's not good at business. His companies all suck. He just gets government subsidies, and so the stock price is up. He bankrupted Solar City, and then he rolled it up into Tesla, and then he fucked up Twitter, and now he rolled that up into somehow like XAI. He just like sold it to himself. He's not actually good at this. He's good at one thing: marketing. He markets his companies. They get really valuable. There's no intrinsic value there. It's all hype. He's just a big fucking hype monster, and we've labeled him a genius for some reason.
Those farms would collapse without government subsidies. Should all of them starve and kill our?
Should those? Yes, those. Yeah, I think so. I think that if the government is going to subsidize something like Tesla, then the government should share in the returns. That's my money. That's your money. Why does our money go to subsidize Tesla and we don't get any return? Not only do we not get a return on our investment, but he also pays people the smallest living wage that he possibly can, and then we give him tax breaks on top of that so he doesn't pay any taxes. So for some reason, I'm paying to keep Tesla and SpaceX in business. For what reason? There's no benefit to us.
Why does? There's a reason why he does.
You're breaking up. I don't know if you're far away from your mic.
No. Can you hear me?
It's pretty choppy.
Sorry, I don't know what to do. I'm right next to my modem. I got my headset right next to me.
Maybe it just sounds like you're far away from your phone.
Oh, you know what? I think I know what's going on. Just a little bit. All right. Is that any better?
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay. I'll try. But no, there's a reason why Elon Musk doesn't pay taxes. You can't get taxed on debt. That would be insane. No one gets taxed on debt.
I know, that's the
He
problem.
wants to-
That's the problem.
Oh no, that's not a problem.
It is a problem.
We should think people for having debt.
Brother,
It's already
he shouldn't be able to buy Twitter without any money and then not pay taxes.
He does.
I think it's a bad system. So we've subsidized a person so they've become so wealthy that now they don't have to pay taxes. Now they don't have to pay for anything. They can just acquire things for the hell of it. And if that thing fails, they'll just create another company and they'll roll up that failure under that company and they never pay the piper. Yeah, no, I don't like that we subsidize billionaires and that we get nothing in return. Absolutely nothing in return. Our return on investment.
Let's start taxing debt. That's insane.
Our return on investment for Tesla is terrible. Our return on investment in SpaceX is terrible. It's dumb economics. Dude, I'm sorry. Your connection is way too bad. I can't hear a word you're saying.
How about now?
I don't know what to do, man. Yeah, it's bad. I can't hear you.
What about now?
That's better. There you go.
Okay, I swapped headphones. Give me just this.
No, it's perfect. Whatever you're doing right now, don't change it. Just do whatever you're doing right now.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool. So, but there's tons of government programs that get negative ROIs. I mean, some of it is a loss that we have to just eat.
I know,
but a lot of people say the government shouldn't be ran for profit, and that's exactly what you're demanding.
The argument,
right now.
yes, the argument is, and this is why I think Elon Musk is a fucking moron, and this is why I hate Republicans right now, is because there are government programs where we get a great return on investment. Some of those examples would be the IRS, where every dollar spent, we return $7. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where every dollar we spend, we get back $8. Medicare, Social Security. Yeah. And what did Elon do? He went in and he cut those budgets. So Elon cuts those budgets and then walks out with another $8 billion in government contracts that will give us no return on investment and no benefit to the people. This is the problem I have with Republicans. You love government spending when it winds up in the pockets of one of your donors. But when government spending actually benefits the government and is actually net positive when it comes to revenue, you guys cut it. You cut all the good programs and then you hype up all the worst ones.
How much abuse and waste were going into these programs that could have been made
the
more
IRS
efficient?
Zero. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence that there was waste, fraud, and abuse in the IRS?
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know.
What about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau?
Okay, look, I didn't agree with that one. I didn't think that should have happened.
Do you like that they had 280 open complaints against Elon and then he just shut them down? Do you think that's good?
And I agree that should be looked into.
Yeah. Do you think Republicans are going to? Do you think the Republicans will kill that investigation or even start that investigation?
No. When has the government ever investigated anything?
Under the Biden administration, they had 2 Democrats that were under investigation. You had both Eric Adams and what's his name, Gold Bar Bob Mendez, and the president's son. So a member of his family was under investigation. And 2 elected officials. Yeah, we did it. You guys don't. You guys won't investigate your side. We will. There was an investigation the whole time Biden was president into him and his son. Never shut it down. The problem that you have is you guys have elected an absolute crook and a con man. And he has convinced you that everything is unfair and that it somehow is unfair to him and his friends. You have become a party where before him, when I worked for the Republicans, when I worked for Mitt Romney, it was the party of like, we're tired of the elites running things. We're tired of all this dark money. And you guys elected Donald Trump and he filled his cabinet full of billionaires who are gutting the government. They're going in and they're cutting programs that are great and giving money to their friends, and we get no return on investment. And all of this started because of a trade deal that Donald Trump is It's been 2 months. It's been 2 months
since he got into the office.
And all he has done is favors for his friends and cut funding for poor people.
Well, okay, he like the first day in office, he approved like 100 executive orders affecting our manufacturing industry and agriculture that showed an immediate benefit.
Executive
An
order.
immediate benefit.
No, it didn't. He's
Like
everything.
earlier, you talked about how eggs weren't affected, but we brushed past that. Biden, literally a week before Trump took into office, murdered 1 million plus chickens.
Biden
That
murdered
may-
chickens?
Yes.
Bro,
Biden,
what
Biden
the
himself
fuck are you
approved
talking
the
about?
culling of chickens. You don't.
Diseased?
Okay, if you didn't know about that.
Oh, you're talking about the chickens that were carrying disease?
Potential. There was a potential risk that they weren't confirmed to be sick. There was a chance.
I'm gonna need to look. I'm gonna need to look
sick.
into that. I'm gonna have to. So we'll have to move
Yeah.
past that because I'm not sure on that. I'll take you at your word on that.
Yeah.
But what?
So, I mean,
what is?
he
what,
tried.
Okay, but Trump's executive orders have done. Well, first of all, they're largely
Oil's crashing right now, too.
That's because that's because
like actually more than 10% drops.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Crash.
Yeah, is it because he drill baby?
But you're saying
is it
he's
because
not doing anything, but he's doing a lot of things.
First of all, he told you he was going to slash oil prices by drilling more oil. He can't luck in. He can't. He fucks up the economy, and you guys are like, let's ignore all of this and only focus on oil prices. You know why oil prices are going down? Because global trade is paused, and so less people are going to use oil, and people are tightening their budgets. Like, maybe I'm not going to go on vacation. Maybe I'm not gonna fly. Oil is easy. Oil is supply and demand. The only way the president really affects oil prices is supply and demand. And so is he increasing the supply? Not really. Is he decreasing the demand? Sure. By making if you make the economy so bad that people don't want to do anything.
Oversupplied.
What's that?
OPEC was already oversupplied.
Yeah, I agree.
This market.
I agree. And the last time he was in office, he made sure that even when we had an oversupply, that we didn't drop prices. He protected the oil. He protected OPEC over the people. The point is, again, this guy does nothing for you. He's doing nothing for you. He's doing everything for his rich friends. And I think you agree with that. But
I'm an investor. He's doing things for me.
He's lost you. Well, he's lost a lot of money.
He's lost traditional investors a lot of money.
Okay. Well,
I'm a volatility trader.
Okay. So you like volatility.
I'll admit I'm disaffected, so my opinion counts less.
Well, I would say that I'm more worried about the majority of people than you. For the majority
average
of
investor.
For everybody in the world, Donald Trump is a bad president. For you, he's good. That's fair. His volatility and the constant swings, that's good for you. But for everybody else, he's fucking us over.
But what you're not understanding is, like, for one, this hurts China twice as much as it hurts the U.S.
It doesn't.
Like I was mentioning earlier, if you look at the Hong Kong index, HSI, they lost 13% since last month. We've lost like 6 or 7% since last month on the S&P 500, which is like their equivalent.
Okay, but why are you doing the last month?
They're hurting more than us.
These tariffs have been in place. These tariffs have been in place for how long?
A week. But who?
So why are you doing the last month?
Because that's when Trump was in office. That's when the Trump tariff talks started to become a reality.
Okay.
Wait,
hold on. The problem that we have here is that you keep. Well, because you're shifting to markets. You've never addressed the initial points. The initial points are that they only need to replace 12% of their exports, and they are negotiating from a position of stability. And Trump is negotiating from a position of instability. That when you say that it affects them more than us, then you're gonna have to quantify that.
No, that's not true at all. China's been going through a recession for the past few years. Their entire construction industry is in a slump. I mean, you could look up tofu drag. That's their infrastructure. It's tofu drag.
But if they're in a recession, we're in a recession, right? If you're going to do that, then we're also in a recession, right?
Sure. But
okay, so do you see what you keep doing this? You keep doing this thing when you compare. You're like, it's worse for China, but the same thing's happening to us. Like we have markets that are struggling too.
Okay, it's twice as worse for them, and their economy is smaller.
You just keep avoiding this though. they have to replace 12% of their exports. You're talking about just the markets. I don't think the market is indicative of the total economy. They only have to replace 12% of their exports, and they're now going to be able to go negotiate with people, and they're going to be able to negotiate from a position of stability, and we don't have that. They have the upper
They're
hand.
going to be working with countries much poorer than the U.S., asking for even cheaper
But the
deals,
U.S.
so
needs those countries
it's going to be
too.
more than 12%.
Wait, the
They'll
U.S.
have to
needs that. No, it's not, brother. What the fuck? If they
Think
export,
about it.
no, I am. If they lose the U.S. and the U.S. is 12%, then how is losing the U.S. going to be more
they're
than
going to have to work
12%?
even harder to get even cheaper deals because these countries are poorer than us. They don't have the same economy
brother,
like
I don't
we
know if you know what
This is why it's a bigger loss
I don't know.
losing us.
I don't know if you know this, but
economic
China imports cheaper stuff. China, it's not like we're competing with China for the same exports. China's not exporting the same things that we are. China's exporting cheaper things. They're already doing it. Look at Mexico. Look at Mexico when in electric vehicles. Who's growing in Mexico right now for electric vehicles? BYD. Why? Because they sell a cheaper, better product than we do. And the only reason that Mexico is still working with us is because we have a trade agreement. But Trump keeps fucking up that trade agreement. In what country would rather do trade with us? Nobody. I think that Trump's estimating his leverage here. We'll see. I'm running out of time though. I'll give you the last word if you're still here. Looks like it. There's a yellow exclamation point next to your name. All right, I gotta go. I don't know what to do there. All right, I'll jump back in Jen. Do this. Sorry, brother, we lost you there. I think. Still here? Let me find Jen's chat. Sorry. Going once, going twice. Sold. All right, sorry, brother. All right, let me now my Discord just crashed. That's not good. Is it my connection? I don't know. I lost Discord too, so I lost Jen. Shit. If you guys have sent Jen messages, I'm sorry I can't see them right now. Let me catch up on messages. Fuck, that took a while. Did I read this one from Amber? I read that. All right, Danny said idiot, dog walking text. Because I'll miss you. Thank you, Becky. Jennifer, thanks for joining the dollar train. Wasn't me, said for the laugh. My stitches hurt and I needed it. Sorry about that. I think I got there. I don't know what's up with Discord. I can't see Jen's messages. I'm so sorry if you guys sent messages to Jen and I didn't read them. Let me go through super chats too. Swish said happy Friday Eve, Double Daddy, meow. Marion, thanks for the super chat. I think I did that one. I just want to show you one more clip. We'll stay for just a second, but let me show you one more clip just while we go. Because one of the things that we keep saying is that, and I think that guest said that our military is stronger than theirs, or maybe that was somebody in the chat. I don't remember who it was. Here's Pete Hegseth before he was Secretary of Defense, as he was campaigning to be Secretary of Defense, talking about the difference between our military and China's military. Can I import a single BYD car? No, dude, 100% tariff if you try and bring it here. I actually watched a video on YouTube of a guy who went down to Mexico, bought a BYD, and then brought it to the United States, but he had to pay 100% tariff on it. Tanya says, have fun on your trip. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it. Here's Pete Hegseth talking about the difference between us and China militarily. This is wild.
The Pentagon is in the book the exact amount of years, but in the past X number of years, 10, 12, 15, the Pentagon has a perfect record in all of its war games against China. We lose every time inside the Pentagon war games. We know what our real capability. You see, we didn't even get to this part of the war on warriors. I mean, the military-industrial complex, the way we procure weapon systems. We're always the way our system works, the way our bureaucratic system works, where the speed of weapons procurement works. We're always a decade behind in fighting the last war, whereas China, we have, what did Rumsfeld say? You go to the war, the army you have. We have the army. China's building an army specifically dedicated to defeating the United States of America. That is their strategic outset. Take hypersonic missiles. So if our whole power projection platform is aircraft carriers and the ability to project power that way strategically around the globe. And yeah, we have a nuclear triad and all of that, but a big part of it. And if, 15 hypersonic missiles can take out our 10 aircraft carriers in the first 20 minutes of a conflict, what does that look like?
Yeah.
I mean, and if they've already got us by the balls economically, which you pointed out very well.
So say your Secretary of Defense says that they're winning economically and militarily. So I like disagree with me. I'm just a shit lib, but your Secretary of Defense agrees with me.
Well, with our grid, culturally, there's plenty of elite capture going on around the globe. I mean, and then microchips and everything. Why do they want Taiwan? They want to corner the market completely on the technological future. We can't even drive our cars without the stuff we need out of China these days. I mean, they have a full spectrum, long-term view of not just regional but global domination, and we have our heads up our asses.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like everybody heard that. When Biden was in office, everybody fucking loved that. Now that Biden's out of office and Trump is negotiating and claiming that we've got a leg up, suddenly that's not relevant anymore. What, in the 2 months that Trump's been president, we went and we surpassed their military and we suddenly have control over them economically. Trump's saying while he's running for president, like, China's beating us. And now that he's in office and he hasn't changed one fucking thing, he's like, China's not beating us. We're beating China. I don't think so. This was the Alibaba founder. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember what his name is. His English is a little broken, so bear with it. But this was fascinating to hear him say, just highlighting the difference between maybe where we think we are and where we are. China does things a little bit more quietly, a little more quiet dignity. They're not so boastful. They're not so brash. China quietly has moved past the United States. And that's why you see things when you see videos coming out of China, just like their technology is light years ahead of us. And they do it quietly. They don't do it like us, where every time we got a new invention, we go show it off to everybody and brag about how America's number one.
That the Americans said, we just want to control the IP, we just want technology, we just want the brand, and leave the lower-end jobs for the world. Great strategy. Past 30 years, IBM, Cisco, Microsoft, they made tons of money. The profit they made are much more than the 4 largest banks in China. But where'd the money go?
So, pointing out there that, like, yeah, you chose cheap labor. And you chose that cheap labor, and you gave all that money to corporations. All that money that you made that was more than the 4 banks in China, you let those people, those handful of people keep it. Where in China, what we do is we spread that around a little bit more. That goes and pays for everybody. So we elevate each other together. That's why, I mean, you guys could say Communist Chinese Party like it's a bad word. Like, the tenets of communism that their capitalist society applies is what has allowed them to elevate and us not to.
After 30 years, the American had 13 wars, spending $14.2 trillion. The money going there. What if they spend a part of that money on building up the infrastructure, helping the white collars and the blue collars?
How many wars has China been in? We should be afraid of. They seem to stay out of war really, really well. They seem to be really fucking good at not going to war. And the missiles. And then that's what you get out of these guys. Like, you guys think this is communism. This isn't communism. This is them saying, like, well, I mean, I guess communists are generally more peaceful. But yeah, this is them saying, we don't want to go to war. These aren't communists, by the way. They can't be a communist country. It's just they're a capitalist country. They are a mixed economy just like we are. The only difference is that when their government spends a bunch of money, they spend it on their people and they spend it on innovation. And when our government spends a bunch of money, we spend it on bombing Muslims. Both of our governments spend an insane amount of money. We just spend it on killing people. They spend it on their on infrastructure, on technological advancement, on education, and on their citizenry. And yeah, they also limit speech a lot more than we do.
No matter how strategy good it is, you're supposed to spend money on your own people. And the other money, which I'm curious about, is that when I was young, I heard America is bad. Ford and Boeing, those big manufacturing companies. The last 10, 20 years, I heard about is Silicon Valley and Wall Street. The money go to the Wall Street. And what happened? Year 2008. The financial crisis wiped out $19.2 trillion USA alone. They wiped out all the white collars and destroyed 34 million jobs globally. So what if the money is not Wall Street? What if the money spent on the Middle East, Middle West of the United States? Developing the industry there, that could be changed a lot. So it's not the other countries steal jobs from you guys. It is your strategy. Okay, but
so you have Republicans here freaking out in the chat right now because you're literally terrified of the word communism. And you know who scared you into that? You look at the history of like the Red Scare. Who was behind that? Very, very rich capitalists. And why? Because it's not that communism or socialism doesn't have flaws. It's not that it can't be used to do what China did and massacre their own people, or what Russia has done. Because every single type of system, whether it be democratic, whether it be democratic socialist, whether it be socialist, whether it be communist, whether it be libertarian, literally every one of those concepts can be bastardized. Every one of those can be corrupted, and all of them are corrupted in the exact same way. Allegiance to a single person. That is the real threat. The threat is not your ideology. The threat is not your economic theories. The threat is allegiance to a single person. Every one of these instances that you have of where you're like communism is bad, it was allegiance to one person that led them there. That's always the case. And that can happen in all of these societies that you're talking about, specifically Germany. You're like, oh, well, they called themselves socialists. Yeah, but they were capitalists. They had a mixed economy just like we did. And so you see all these Republicans in here, and this is the knee-jerk reaction. I show you a Chinese, a person from China. We talk about China and the things that they're doing well. Not saying that we want to be China, just that there are things that they do well that we don't do well. And because you're so conditioned to see China as the enemy, you will not accept that they do anything well or that we should replicate some of the things that they do well. The reality is, as simply as possible, that the main difference between what China does and what we do is that they invest in their people and we invest in war and billionaires. And we made this decision when Ronald Reagan came along to give the money to the billionaires and say, you guys run this shit because the private market does better than government. The government should have no control. We should just let the capitalists run free. And they have. And ever since that day, we've steadily rose in debt. We've steadily rose in wealth inequality. We've steadily dropped when it comes to education. We've steadily dropped everywhere, except the only places we've really gotten, like our numbers have really gotten up, is the amount of money we spend on the military, the amount of wars we've been in, and the amount of people that we incarcerate. And then the amount of billionaires that were created. Every other metric, we are losing to China. And instead of being afraid of China, and instead of learning from China, or instead of refusing to learn from China, why don't we just learn from them? Why don't we look at China and say, boy, it would be really nice if we had high-speed rail. You want to beat China? Let's have high-speed rail. Let's have great public transportation. Let's have great electronics. Let's have free internet for everybody. Let's have schools that are fully funded, public schools that are fully funded, and we make sure that our kids get a good education. Let's do all of that and also have free speech. Let's do all of that and not censor people. Then we win. Take everything they do well that would benefit American people, copy it, and add it to the things that America does better than they do. China's not better at everything, but they're better at some things. Why don't we replicate the shit they're good at and keep the shit we're good at? Instead, it seems that this administration is doubling down on all the shit that we suck at. And it's like, let's double down on all this. Let's defund education. Let's defund Medicare, Social Security. Let's give these billionaires even more money. Let's put a tax on the middle class. Let's not do anything to fix education. Let's not do anything to fix universal health care. Let's make sure that there's millions of people in this country that can't afford health care. Let's keep doubling down on all the shit that we're bad at and not learn a goddamn thing. That's why we're losing. Arrogance. And the arrogance at this point in time is coming from conservatives who don't want to admit that we fell behind. And they don't want to do the things that the other countries are doing better than us, because then they have to admit that this experiment, this trickle-down economics, let the billionaires make all the decisions, didn't fucking work. And who's making the decisions? Who's at the top right now? All the billionaires. They're literally in the cabinet. They all made a fortune. Investigations will come out and we will find out that multiple members of this administration are insider trading and that they knew of the market manipulation and they benefited wildly. And many Republicans, many of you that are still here will be like, that's fine. That's how it is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Only the strong survive. I'd rather have a different country. I'd rather have a different vision, and I think our vision's a better vision. We went a little over today. Let me check comments one last time. Alexandria said, SpaceX is ruining tons of homes in Texas, mine included. They test all day up until 9 p.m., and our foundations are screwed. Let's deport Elon. Oh, that's crazy. Like from the shaking? I'd imagine that's from like the vibrations. Well, at least it's impossible to, at least Texas will also not do anything to protect you, and then the insurance companies will leave. They'll start calling that an act of God because Elon's God. Cam says, have a good weekend, bro. Thanks, Cam. Susan, thank you for the donation. Did I miss any other ones? I don't want to leave anybody hanging. I think I got all of those. All right, everybody. Just a reminder, I won't be here tomorrow or Monday. I'm on vacation. So I will see you guys Tuesday morning, possibly Monday night. Until then, I'll miss you all desperately. Take care of yourselves. Stay cute and cool, and have a great summer.